All right, welcome our sports fans to another episode of the Gridiron 64 podcast. This will be episode number 16. It's the third round of the playoffs breakdown. We'll do the preview on Wednesday. I'm your host, Gabriel Trevino. I have my crew at full effect. We have Big T, Tony Pena. Tony, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. Glad to be back.
Then we have the Z-Man, Johnny Zavala. Z-Man, how you doing?
Doing good.
And then last but not least, we have the coach, Steve Cantu. How you doing, coach?
Hey, I'm blessed, brother. I'm happy to be here.
So we have about 20-something games. I kept tabs, guys, this weekend. Man, on Friday, it was good on Texan Live, man. Some upsets, some really close games. If you guys look, I put down on paper so you guys could also see what I see, which is the games, your prediction, who you picked, who I picked, and then, of course, on the bottom there, it kind of tells you your record. So some of us, well, actually, none of us really did great. So we've got some work to do, but it was a lot of fun, guys. It was, I'll tell you what, man, it was crazy. There was some really good games. The one I saw, there were some that were just, man, it was just like, wow. Came down to the last second, some overtime, and they were great. Now we'll start off with the first one. It was the Corpus Christi Veterans Memorial Eagles taking on Memorial Mustangs. Johnny, Steve, Tony, and I all picked CC Vets. We got it right. Veterans takes the big win, 35-0. Tony, I'll go to you first, man. Any thoughts on this game?
No, man. I definitely thought Veterans was going to win this game. I mean, we talked about how kind of sluggish they ended their season, but they're still a strong team and they're scoring a lot of points. And the Memorial Mustangs, I believe that's the team that Victoria West played in the first round, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's the Valley team.
And they didn't blow them out. So I didn't think that they were going to come in week 3 and take Veterans out.
Johnny, I'll go to you next. I know that you mentioned early on, I think before the playoffs, that Vets was playing without their starting quarterback. Do you know if he's back?
He is not back. They're still playing with their backup quarterback.
Wow.
That's impressive. Your thoughts on this game, Johnny?
Well, the Vets did come out a little sluggish this game. I mean, they didn't score until 16 seconds left before the half. So they didn't come out fired up this game. The McAllen was pretty holding them down that first half. But man, that's all it took was just a little spark going into the locker room. That momentum going in, because they came back, in that second half, scoring 4 times in their first 4 possessions. So their momentum was complete on their way after that. So McAllen only crossed midfield only twice the entire game. So that was very impressive by them. And speaking of this quarterback, Aiden Inohosa went 14 for 21, 323 yards and 4 touchdowns. Very impressive game by this guy. So hey, Vets are for real.
Well, they're going to have to be for next week.
Don't get one more round.
Hey, Steve, when you shut your third round and you shut out a team to 0, that's pretty impressive defensively, man. I mean, you're in the third round. You're a pretty good offensive team to get there. So that's pretty impressive. Your thoughts on the game?
Well, I tell you, McAllen, what I'm saying, they're down there in the Valley, I'm saying, I don't know, they had a pretty tough second round opponent, or what is it, second round, yeah. But and they overcame some stuff and they did great to advance. But Veterans Memorial is just, they're on a different level. You know what I'm saying? I honestly thought that this is one of those last ones of those Valley teams that kind of stuck around, and it was more by the grace of the schedule gods that got those guys this far. I knew Vets was going to go down there and pound them. I mean, that quarterback stepping up, that's excellent. I didn't know that they were playing with the backup still. So I mean, they did a great job going down there because hey, McAllen, they got some big old guys down there, man. Let me tell you, I went to school down there for a little while, and it was the first time I ever seen I was sitting in a classroom with a guy with with more facial hair than the teacher. Those are some grown ass men down there. You know what I'm saying? So Vets did a good job, you know what I'm saying, bouncing back there in the second half and really getting things rolling. So, hats off to those guys, you know what I'm saying, playing the hardest when it means the most, right? I mean, regardless how you stumble into the playoffs or maybe not playing extremely well, then you have a devastating blow, losing your starting quarterback, heading into the playoffs like that, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's a lot of stuff to overcome. And so Vets really showed a lot of mental toughness, you know what I'm saying? And I know we talked about mental toughness last week. This is not the time to make excuses this time of the year. You know what I'm saying? You don't make excuses. You just go out there and play. And that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? They had a deserving opponent, you know what I'm saying, who won their last game in advance. But to me, they were still inferior. I thought Vets would blow them out, and they did what they had to do. So hats off to Vets and their coaches, and I'm looking for Vets to make a little run. I know it's going to be a little tough coming up next week. You know what I'm saying? But I got faith in the Vets, man. They're playing well.
And this is the impressive part, I think, is next week you have two Corpus Christi schools going toe-to-toe for the region championship. Right? So that's awesome, man. I mean, that just shows. And both of these teams, guys, I mean, you talked about it, Steve. Both these guys are young. We know that Vets is young. We've had Coach Bittner on the Gridiron, and he's talked about it. A lot of his players will be returning. So it's going to be exciting also next year with the competition with these two teams. We'll wait to see what Florida Bluff has, but we know that Gregory-Portland will be back next year. Obviously, their team is young, and we'll jump to those guys next. GP at the Alamo Dome in San Antonio. We're taking on the Florida Bluff Hornets. Johnny and Steve and Tony both took, all three of them took the Wildcats. I took the Hornets. I'll go to Steve first. Steve, I know you've been a little high on the Wildcats, and listen, this game came down to the end, and I got to tell you before I send it over to you, hook and lateral, man. That's just an ugly way. They threw a little pass. I think there was under 20 seconds left, if I'm correct. They do the hook and lateral, man. GP, the guy gets behind him, runs it all the way down. They're able to get him at about the 6 or 7 yard line. Florida Bluff kicks the field goal and wins it by 3. I mean, that's a heartbreak. That's a ugly way to lose a game, I think. I mean, when you lose, but that way, I thought it was going to go into overtime. It did not, but GP's for real, man. Your thoughts on this game and the way GP lost it by 3 at the end?
Yeah, well, I tell you, I mean, that's a super tough way to lose a game. But when you do that, I mean, you got to chalk that up to experience, right? I mean, those guys they got a young squad. You know what I'm saying? They hadn't been in a tough game like that. Deep into the playoffs in many years. You know what I'm saying? So I think their experience finally caught up to them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, because Flower Bluff I'm telling you, I was not on Flower Bluff's bandwagon all year. You know what I'm saying? I really didn't see a ton. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they were, they had a great season, but I just didn't see this coming. I thought GP, if they got out ahead, you know what I'm saying? If they got out ahead, I thought they'd fare well, you know what I'm saying? But in a tight game, it comes down to experience and not just between the chalk. I'm talking about outside the white lines too. You know what I'm saying? So how much experience did the coaching staff have in a late game like that? You know what I'm saying? Giving up a big run that late in the game with on a junk play. I don't like those plays, but it's heartbreaking and it's it's something to stand up and cheer about at the same time. You know what I'm saying? I personally thought that it shows desperation there towards the end of the game, but it also great play calling. So you can go both ways, right? I mean, I sound hypocritical, but I guess it comes down to like I said, man, it's just execution and just a mental breakdown on their part, being so young. But, that does not take anything away from the season that GP had. And I know that's a cliche and everybody says that, all losing teams, are going to say that at one point. But GP had a great season and they're going to bounce back, man. And GP is they're going to be there for a little while now. And I think, Gregory-Portland is going to be a tough team to beat next year. And they're going to have something to say about it, so, hats off to Flower Bluff, although, I'm saying I wasn't on their, level with them, but great job nonetheless. An area team, regardless, we were going to get an area team to advance. So, that's the positive thing I saw, coming out of this matchup and now, on to the next opponent. So it's going to be another great matchup. So, yeah, man.
Johnny, how much do you think experience, like Steve's talking about, played in to GP losing? I mean, because they were behind the whole game, really. I mean, they're playing catch up. They'd come real close, and then Flower Bluff would get a touchdown or something. But how much do you think experience played in the loss for the Wildcats?
Oh, that's a tough one, dude. Because I mean, the GP took that first game during the season, and I didn't. They were on a roll, so they were the hottest team in the area, and Flower Bluff was never consistent all season. The GP GP tied the game 4 times that game, 4 times. They never could take control, go ahead and pull away. It was that block punt that they scored, I think, with 2 minutes left, that block punt for 11 yards to tie the game. What was it, a 44, I believe, right? I mean, right there, I just thought the momentum right there, GP had it, but it just shows you what Flower Bluff didn't panic, as Steve said, you pretty well goes for desperation play calling, but hey, the play's there for a reason. They executed all year until it's time to pull it out, and so it was a good play, to pull out. It's usually gonna work. It's usually gonna work because you got that back coming from the back, full speed, while the other guys are breaking down to make a tackle. So I think that was a great play calling. I mean, but if you think about it, I didn't see the game, but I was reading up on it, and I didn't read this part, but it kind of popped in my head as, and they also wrote it on the article as far as when they did that hook and lateral, how much time was left when he got tackled?
I think it was when he got tackled. God, I think when the play, I know it was under a minute. I'm not sure exactly. I want to say 20-some seconds, but I could be wrong. I think right after that they kicked the field goal. Well, there was maybe 6-7 seconds, I think, left. I think it was under 10 seconds. I'm not sure exactly. But
because the way I read it was Flower Bluff was just killing that clock to leave GP with no time.
Okay.
So right then and there, they were saying Flower Bluff got lucky that they got tackled inbounds so that clock could run out, so GP wouldn't have time to do anything on their end. Because they kicked the field goal with 2 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much time they ran out from that. Kind of makes you think. Somebody like that breaks. You let them score. Give your offense. The chance to get there because they're there's chip chop field goal. But
I don't think there was a lot of time, but I really don't know exactly what time. But Johnny, you're a defensive guy too, right? I mean, I guess it all depends on the play, how much time's left. I guess if there's under a minute left, I mean, I'm going to ask you this.
That's got to be a down and distance play right there. You know what I'm saying? I like to know if that was a third and super long right there. You know what I'm saying? So you don't pull out a play like that on first down. You know what I'm saying? That's got to be a third down play. I'm pretty sure that was something late. You know what I'm saying?
See, it's either that or there was not that much time left, right? Something like that.
Well, they got the ball with 2 minutes 45 seconds.
See, that's what I'm saying.
They got the ball with 2 minutes 45 seconds.
See, so, but Johnny, when you're down there like that, there's 2 minutes and 45 seconds left, right? Okay, and and they were at their end. Our Bluff was at their end, deep in their end. I don't know, maybe 20, 15 yard line, but they were on their end.
Yeah, because it was a 61-yard catch and run. 61 yards.
So they were what, at about the 40 something?
Yeah.
They were knocked out at what, the 6, 7 yard line?
That I don't know.
I saw. I think they were like they knocked them out like at the 7 yard line or something. So, but my question to you is this: do you change your defense set when you know they're going to start throwing? Because I don't understand how the guy gets behind you. You got to know, like Steve's saying, if there's time left, if it's 30 and long, they've got it. Just don't let anybody get past you. This guy.
The play is not past you. It's just what every team ran against us. It was a little out passes, and that's what the hook collateral is. You throw it to your out guy, and your running back's coming behind full blast and catching it.
But you got to see that.
The receiver
catches know that. Right? I know these guys are young, but you got to see that coming.
You can't really see it because everybody's going for the receiver.
Well, you can't see the play coming, right? But there's a trick play coming because if they throw like 7 or 8 yards, right? I know it's easier said than done, but it's just they're coming with something to try to get the first down or bigger yards. It's not just going to be a little quick catch like that because they need to go. I don't know if it was 3rd or 10 or 12 or what the yardage was, right? But it just seemed like the corner tried to reach out for him, but missed him, and he just kind of went down the sideline, and that safety or the corner from the other side was able to get him at around the 7. But it's it just seemed like a good play calling by the Hornets, right? But man, just a bad way to lose for the Wildcats. But Tony, I'll go to you. How good is Flower Bluff's quarterback?
Well, Flower Bluff, you asked about experience when you talk to Johnny. He has experience. He's a senior this year. He's been in the playoffs probably every year. I know at least to the 3rd round 2 years ago. So he has experience. Their offensive line has experience, and they're big. But I think what this game comes down to really is the defense, and that's one of the things that Veterans Memorial is doing well right now. If you look at their last 3 games, they've only allowed 7 points. And when you get this deep into the playoffs, it's harder and harder to score points because defenses start picking it up. And I think that in this game, both defenses struggled, and that's why there was so many points scored. And that's what it boils down to. I mean, trick plays, when you're on the field, you don't ever expect a trick play. You just don't. You don't expect it. So for the coach to call that play out when he did, regardless of what down it was on, it really is a desperation play. You got to get down the field. You got to throw something at the other team that they haven't seen all season long because these two teams have faced each other before. Um, so it's the perfect play call, well executed. To Johnny's point, you throw a short pass to the receiver. Defense is just thinking tackle, tackle, tackle. Well, you pitch it off right before they get there, and the other guy's free because he's already coming full speed. It's really hard to change direction and try to get the other guy when he's running full speed downhill and the other guy's breaking down to make a tackle. So it's just a well executed play, perfect time, and put them in position to win the game. But like I said, what it boils down to is just defenses at this point of the season just need to start really playing better. And that's what Veterans Memorial is doing well right now. Though their offense is not doing as uh, good as it was in the regular season, scoring a lot of points. Their defense is really keeping them in games by only allowing, like I said, 7 points in the last 3 games. So that's one of the things that I would be concerned with as a Flower Bluff coach going into this round 4 is how do I get my defense better? Because we're talking about a backup quarterback throwing for over 300 yards. That's what they're going to be competing against. You know what I mean? GP is a running team. We talked about their running back a lot. They do have a big receiver over there that's a senior. He's done some, but most of their yards are on the ground. So now they're going to face a team like Veterans Memorial where they have receivers and they just need somebody that can stand in the backfield. They got a big offensive line. They just need somebody to stand in the backfield and throw the ball down the field. They got receivers that go up there and catch it. That De La Peña kid is pretty unstoppable. I haven't seen very many corners shut him down. So, that's what my concern would be going into next week. But what this game boiled down to is just defensively. The defense needed a play and they didn't make it, and that's why they didn't win the game.
And I
But
think
definitely
too,
does have to do with experience.
Yeah,
and I,
because Dalvin Bats had 170 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns in a span of 5 carries at one time. He was
And that
he was
and,
pretty.
and that's the other thing.
Within 5 carries, he had 3 touchdowns.
And that's the other thing. We talk about do what you've been doing, do it, don't change what you're doing. But when you get to this part of the playoffs, you know what I mean? You have to show another dynamic. And had GP done that, because Flower Bluff already played this team, especially since they already played this team. They know their tendencies. I'm pretty sure they watched film on them all year long, especially after that loss early in the season. Um, and they didn't change their dynamic. They played the same game that they've been playing, because they had already beat them, but they needed to throw something different at Flower Bluff to throw them off, but they didn't. And then, Flower Bluff got that quarterback. He's 6'5". He's a big dude. He could see the field from, behind anybody. So, Flower Bluff, they just did enough to win. They did enough to win. So.
and they got some breaks too. I was told about a play where GP intercepted the ball. They ran it back, and then they fumbled it during the interception. And I think Flower Bluff recovered it or got into the end zone. So there were some breaks that Flower Bluff got along the way. But I think, like Johnny's point, they just couldn't get over the hump. They Flower Bluff was scoring. They just made it enough just to tie or stay close. But they just couldn't get control of the game. They were playing pretty much from behind Flower Bluff, and Flower Bluff never really truly gave up the control. And in the end, that one play, I mean, it comes, like you said, we look at that one play, but really, like you said, Tony, it doesn't come down to one play. It's the defense having multiple chances throughout the game to stop them, and they didn't. The one play does hurt you, but it didn't come down to that one play. It was throughout the 4 quarters. GP's defense couldn't stop Flower Bluff's offense, and then that one lucky play comes into play, and they were able to get that field goal. Well, I'm sure Flower Bluff Hornets are loving that field goal kicker. But and what kind of pressure for that kid right there to put it up there? I think it was like maybe a 30-yarder or something, but still, it's pressure. You've got you got to make it. So, man, great job. I think next week on Wednesday we'll preview round 4. And when we get to this game, it's going to be a good one. So we'll go to game 3 now. We had the Liberty Panthers going up against Rouse Raiders. Liberty takes the win 56-33. Johnny had Rouse. Steve had Rouse Raiders. Tony had Liberty. And I had Rouse. So Tony got this one right. So we'll go to Tony. Tony took Liberty. So, Tony, I'll go to you first. What did you see in Liberty to pick them over the Raiders?
This is Liberty Hill, right? Is that correct? Yeah. Well, I mean, Liberty Hill has one, the reason I picked Liberty Hill is because I know them over Rouse, number 1. Number 2, I mean, Liberty Hill is one of those schools, just like Cal Allen, just like any of those other schools, Waco La Vegas, that has a winning tradition. These guys play hard. You know what I mean? And I think Rouse going into the game was ranked higher if I remember correctly. But I just went with the team. I didn't really watch none of their games. Just looked at wins and losses, and I think they were pretty even on that one. But Liberty Hill's the team that I know, and like I said, we've faced them before, and they know how to play through adversity. So that's why I went with Liberty Hill.
Johnny, they do seem to have talent, like Tony said. We are aware we played them a few years back. They do seem to have athletes pretty much every year. They're in contentions for the playoffs. Obviously, they're in the playoffs pretty much every year, and they make a deep run. Your thoughts on this game? You picked. You went the other way. What made you pick? What did you see? What made you pick Rouse over Liberty?
I picked Rouse because I kind of went into their individual players as far as standout players and stuff like that. And their quarterback's been like having some big games here and there. And he had a big game against Liberty Hill. He threw for 474 yards against Liberty Hill. 5 touchdowns. So he didn't do bad. He did his part, but I really don't see where they went downfall. But it's basically one of those games where like you don't play all the way through the fourth quarter. The score was 35-33 going into the fourth quarter. So they didn't score, and Liberty Hill took off in the fourth quarter. So that right then and there, that showed you that they just ran out of gas. They're you just got to keep up with players like teams like that. You can't expect to go through the whole game and not finish off that fourth quarter. So Liberty Hill, there was a guy by the name Joe Pitchford. He had 235 yards rushing. This game. So there was a lot of big numbers in this game. Rouse receiver Troy Oliver, he had 9 catches for 214 yards receiving. But I think Liberty Hill pretty well pounded it on the ground with 485 yards rushing. That's huge in the third round of the playoffs. If you kind of look at some of these other games, there weren't too many over 250 yards totals, around the area. So this kind of stood out, them pretty well pounding the ball on the ground just on the rushing themselves.
And Steve, Liberty Hill runs the slot T is what they do. And pretty much there's athletes on both sides. You heard Johnny kind of break it down where the quarterback for the Raiders, man, had a big game. But when you can run the ball like that, 400 plus yards, 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to win the game, man. So they've got something going over there, Liberty Hill. Your thoughts on the game, Coach?
Well, the guys just ran up against a pretty tough defense. I mean, I'm looking at the stats here. They had 6 turnovers in the game. They had 3 fumbles and 3 picks. You know what I'm saying? And we know very well, you know what I'm saying? It's hard to recover from that. So, Liberty Hill's defense really stepped it up and put a lot of pressure on those guys and limited them to what they were able to do. You know what I'm saying? Obviously they got their yards, you know what I'm saying, in the air. But, when they tried to run the ball, it looks like they were turning over the ball quite a bit. So, their defense really rallied and made some great plays. And their quarterback, like he said, Johnny stated his stats. You know what I'm saying? He was the guy. That's Pitchford. Pitchford is their quarterback. So he only had 1 pass attempt. You know what I'm saying? He had 1 pass attempt, 1 completion, and then everything else he did it on the ground. So, it's just finding ways to win and the defense being opportunistic when they get their chance on the field. You know what I'm saying? So obviously when you're forcing, 6 turnovers in the game, 9 times out of 10, you're going to come out the victor. You know what I'm saying? So they did an excellent job on defense and they were both matched, evenly. You know what I'm saying? That Rouse came in undefeated in district. They were 7-0 in district and 11-2 overall. They were both 11-2 overall. So, it was a great matchup. I picked behind Johnny. Johnny's my fullback. I picked behind Johnny and I went with Johnny. So anytime I can do wrong and if I'm behind Johnny, he's my fullback. That's the reason why. Hey, they did a great job. You know what I'm saying? Played a great defensive game. And, that they're on to the next round, man.
Absolutely. And then the fourth game on our schedule, we had Marble Falls Mustangs taking on the Alamo Heights Mules. The Alamo Heights takes the win 10-7. This is a defensive battle, I would imagine, because the score. We all picked Alamo Heights. We all got it right. Coach, I'll go back to you first. Your thoughts on this game?
Man, shoot. Talk about a total shot in the dark for me right here, man. I really didn't see anything on these teams, and it was just a total stab in the dark, man. Did you say I lost?
No, you won. We all won. Alamo
well, there
Heights
you go. I knew what I was doing the whole time.
I think I think you were following your
My
fullback.
fullback? Did I follow
Because
my
he picked
fullback?
Alamo High. Yeah, yeah.
There you go. There you
We were
go.
in the power eye.
Power eye, Johnny. You know, an old school,
Mhm.
baby.
Hey, Johnny, you know, I've known a little. I mean, I've seen Alamo Heights a little. I didn't really know much about them either. I just kind of took a shot like Steve, man. I just thought Alamo Heights would be the better team. But this was a really defensive battle, I guess, because neither offense could really get going. I mean, 10-7. You're talking about a field goal here that wins the game for Alamo. Do you have any stats on this game?
What all I had was what was it? Just really not much, man. About all I had was for Alamo Heights, George Flesher, you know, but he had 31. It took him 31 carries to have 121 yards,
Wow.
you know, on the ground, you know, and Alamo Heights, be the winner, you know, only had 297 total yards, and that's pretty decent, you know. But again, you know, it was obviously a defensive battle game, and I almost went with Marble Falls only because there were somebody when I used to play, but. You know, but Alamo Heights, I think over time they've been up and down over years, you know. So that's pretty much why I went with them. I just haven't heard much about Marble Falls here lately.
Yeah, they were a powerhouse back when we were in school. Yeah, you don't hear much about them anymore like you did back in the day. Tony, your thoughts on this game? Defensive battle, man. I mean, you know, field goal wins the game for the Alamo, man. Your thoughts? Johnny talked a little bit about you know, the running back. He got over 100 yards, but man, he had to carry it 30 plus times.
Yeah. Well, this, you know, I don't know a whole lot about either of these teams, but what I do know a whole lot about is the teams that in our area or in our district, and one of the things that I know is that they blanked Wimberley early in the season, and you know Wimberley's a tough team, and they held them to nothing. So when you talk about defense, you know, you think about a team that could score like Wimberley and holding them to zero. You know, that's why I picked Alamo Heights.
Yeah, that's impressive. You can hold Wimberley to 0 points, 4 quarters, man. Your defense, they're pretty good. Game 5, we had the number 5th ranked team in the state, the El Campo Ricebirds, going up against Little Cyprus from Mauriceville, the Bears. Man, just surprising. The Bears take the win over the Ricebirds 24-21. Johnny, I'll go to you, man. Any stats on this game, man? This was a good one. This was actually, I don't know how good Little Cyprus is, but with El Campo, you know, being ranked number 5, Johnny took El Campo, Steve took El Campo, Tony and I both took El Campo. The 4 of us got it lost. What happened, Johnny, to El Campo in this game?
Man, I went with their ranking and who we've seen in the past, you know, and I didn't really think about this coming out this way, you know. As I look back, you know, it was like they had a common team, which was Columbia, and El Campo put up 63 points on Columbia compared to Little Cyprus 42. You know, so right then and there, I was like, yeah, I think they got this one pretty easily. But you know, I guess El Campo's defense wasn't so great, you know, after all, you know, because they did give up 49 to Columbia to 21s of Little Cyprus, you know, so maybe their defense didn't hold up, you know, through the whole season as we were used to seeing in the past.
24-21, Tony, and I'll tell you this, and I know you guys, probably the 3 of you guys like me remember, when Rockford played, I think we were sophomores a few years back, that running back that really destroyed our defense a couple of years ago, he's a senior this year, or should have been a senior this year for El Campo. So we knew what he could do when he was younger. So they had a running back. I think he should be a senior this year, I believe.
Yeah.
So everything looked like El Campo was going to win this game, Tony, but we don't know much about Little Cyprus, but man, they take the win over. They beat a really good El Campo team, but not by much. But I guess my question to you would be, this high power offense that scores a lot of points could not score against the Mauriceville. Your thoughts? Do you have any stats as far as this game?
Oh man, I don't have a stats, but you know when I look at, you know, maybe I should look more into this game. You know, Their strength of schedule was pretty good. I mean, when you look, they played Hampshire, who we previewed earlier in the season as one of our state games. They beat Orangefield. They played them in week one. They played West Orange Stark. They played Kincaid, who we faced, I believe it was last year, that private school from Houston, and they beat them. And then they beat Jasper. They held Jasper to 0. So when I look at the teams that they played, I probably should have went with them. But I went with El Campo because again, it's one of the schools that we know, one of the schools that we've seen. I mean, they beat Port Lavaca pretty bad. They beat some of the schools around here pretty bad, and that's why I went with El Campo. But man, I tell you what, the strength of schedule that Little Cyprus had to get to this point is it's been a tough road, and they managed to hold a 11-2 record. So that's pretty impressive. I probably should have dug more deep into the teams that they played before I picked. But yeah, that's what I think it boils down to here. I mean, it's not, again, they didn't blow them out, but we talk about the defense. Defense is what gets you here, gets you this far in the playoffs. So defensively, they did enough to hold down the running attack that El Campo is known for.
Steve, so I guess there's something to be said for strength of schedule. I mean, you hear Tony talking about this game and what little Cyprus was, what they had to play, what the coaches picked, obviously helped them against a really good El Campo team to get the win and advance to the next round. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, there's no doubt that the coaches laid out a great schedule and preparing for El Campo, who has all that they got a winning organization down there. They've won a lot of games, and they've been tough and competitive for years. And it just kind of it might have just snuck up on them. You know what I'm saying? I mean, the real problem, defensively, they did great. I mean, they 24 points. They only scored 7 points in the first and second. You know what I'm saying? So 14 points. 14-7 at halftime. So they were holding up. They were holding their own. Their defense and the team just didn't run away from them. But what their biggest downfall is they didn't score in the second or the third. They got goose egg, and then they came on late in the fourth quarter. They scored twice in the fourth quarter. That Owens kid is the kid that you were talking about. He had 31 carries for 202 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he was doing his part, but they were keeping him out of the end zone. You know what I'm saying? They were just keeping him out of the end zone there in the middle part of the game. You know what I'm saying? And that's where they ran into their problems. You know what I'm saying? So they got goose egg for 2 quarters. You know what I'm saying? You shut out for 2 quarters, and it's tough. So those guys are playing them tough. They get momentum. You know what I'm saying? Owens is doing his thing, but it's just not enough. Jay Davis had 14 carries himself for 97 yards. No scores for him, but so they were doing what they could. They just couldn't punch it in the end zone there in the middle quarter to keep pace with these guys, and it has to come as a shocker. You know what I'm saying? I saw a lot of the ticker boards, a lot of the chat boards and stuff like that, and they were talking about this one and right along with all the other big upsets, and we'll get to it. But this one definitely came as a shock to me. You know what I'm saying? Like Tony, you know what I'm saying? Not doing our due diligence and checking out this team, we probably would have been at least second guessing. I think I still would have went with Del Campo with their winning traditions, but you know what I'm saying? That might have been something that they overlooked as well. I don't know. I doubt it, but it is what it is. Those guys are moving on, and they did a great job.
And I think this is kind of like the what we talked about with the GP Flower Bluff game. Uh, they're a one-dimensional team. They ran the ball. The guy got the ball 31 times. 31 touches in a game, 200 yards is impressive, but 31 touches, that's only 6 yards a carry.
Yeah.
The quarterback had 8 attempts and only completed 2 passes, and that's what I mean. You got to bring something different. When you come in, and that's where Flower Bluff caught GP. They did something different. You run a trick play and you get down the field and you're in position to win the game. And the Ricebirds didn't do that. They didn't do anything different. They ran the ball, didn't try to do nothing different. And it's easy. You stop number 4, and keep them out of the end zone, you win the game. And their defense did that. Their defense only had to key in on one guy. You know what I mean? Because the quarterback wasn't gonna, obviously wasn't passing the ball very much. So, it's when you get this deep in the playoffs, your defense has to be stellar, and you have to do something that you haven't done. You have to try to do something that you haven't done the whole season to be more than one dimensional.
Absolutely. Number 6 on our schedule, we had the number 5 Argyle Eagles taking on number 2 Stephenville Yellowjackets. This was a good game, guys. The Yellowjackets do get the win 21-17. Johnny, I'll go to you first. Any surprise that this game was as close as it was? You have number 2 and number 5. Both programs are really good football programs. Obviously, I think you guys, let's see, Johnny picked Argyle, Steve picked Argyle. We both, Tony and I, picked Argyle, and we all got it lost. So I would ask you, Johnny, why didn't any of us pick Stephenville? They were the number 2 team.
I don't know. This was a good game, though.
It was.
I was surprised. I mean, both teams are pretty tight, both highly ranked. You just had to pick somebody, pretty much. It could have gone either way this whole game. They're going into the fourth quarter tied 14-14. So one team scores a touchdown, the other scores a field goal, and that's how it ends. So these guys went at it. They didn't give up. Even their total yards were pretty well even.
Yeah.
Stephenville 345 yards and Argyle 347 yards. 2-yard difference on the total offense. So this game was right up, real tight. I mean, yeah, pretty much.
And Tony, we knew, 2 and 5, we know both of these teams are good. The Stephenville, we've seen them, and of course we know about Argyle. So it was going to come down to which team could execute. Obviously Stephenville, the lower ranked team, obviously the number 2, right, was able to do just a little bit more than Argyle. But you picked Argyle. What was your reason for picking Argyle? What did you see that made you pick Argyle over Stephenville?
Well, I went with the defending state champs. I went with the defending state champs. I figured, they could do it again. Carthage wins state in Division 1 2 years ago. Carthage leaves that division, goes to Division 2. Argyle wins the following year. And I just thought Argyle was going to be the better team in that district for a few years, and Stephenville does like you said, a little bit more to win that game. And Stephenville has had some impressive wins throughout the season. I mean, they're 13-0, and they've played against some very tough opponents. So they were ready for a game like this. They were ready for a game like this. Yes. Argyle's the defending state champs, and when you knock out the defending state champs, you go in with that extra not momentum, but if as a football player, like, this is the team you want to beat. You want to beat the best. That's who you want to play against. You want to play against the best, and because if you win that game, it's something that you always remember. And they knocked out the defending state champs, so hats off to them.
And Steve, just like Tony's saying, right, that's what you want to do, man. If you want the state title, right, if you're hungry and you want to be known as that team, you want to be the last team standing, this is the game. I mean, if you're Stephenville, you're ranked, right? So you're saying they were coming in number 2, Steve, they're coming in number 5, but that's not enough. Tony's saying, hey, they're the state champ. We want that title. We want to be there. If you can't get pumped up and get ready for this game, you don't belong in that type of game, man. Your thoughts on this game? Because this was a hell of a game between 2 great football programs here in Texas.
Yeah, no, like Johnny referred to, is evenly, all the way across the board, passing and on the ground, they both evenly matched. They had similar stats all the way through it, but where the Yellowjackets pulled away was defensively. I'm saying on defense, on defense, they separated themselves. They had 5 sacks, 5.5 sacks, I think, on the defensive side of the ball, and 5 turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. That 2 picks and 3 forced fumbles. So there's your difference in the game. That's wanting it and going out and getting it. That's seeing your opponent as a a rung that you want to climb on the ladder. You know what I'm saying? You want to be the best. You got to knock out the best. And those boys came in really focused. They played a evenly matched game, offensively. You know what I'm saying? They were doing exactly what they need to do on both sides of the ball, right? So they're passing and they're rushing, right? Like we talked about that being one dimensional. These guys weren't, neither was the other team, but defensively is where they set themselves apart. Forcing that many turnovers and getting that many sacks. That's a lot of guys hustling to the ball right there. And that's hungry to get to the next round. You know what I'm saying? Hungry to take on the bully. You know what I'm saying? So they did a great job. And to me, that's where they set themselves apart defensively, forcing turnovers and getting to the quarterback. And that's what it all boils down to. You know what I'm saying? So they did an excellent job. And I'm sure this one's going to last for a long time in that town. You know what I'm saying? Getting this big win. So, hats off to him.
All of us. Stephenville does have a few state titles under their belts, by the way. I just don't know how many, but I know they have a few in the 90s.
They definitely got a tradition, but like I said, I went with the defending state champs, and that's why I went with them. But looking at their schedule, they beat some really impressive teams. So, and they're 13-0, and here they are, so.
And we'll see, guys. Can Stephenville finish it up? I mean, it was a great win, beating Argyle, right? But the work isn't done yet. For this team, they want to be the last team standing, so they've got to go 2 more rounds. We'll see if at the end, they can get that state title. We'll go to Game 7 on the GI64 schedule. You had number 9 La Vega Pirates taking on the number 14 in state Melissa Cardinals. This wasn't even a game, guys. Melissa takes the huge win, 41-14. Tony, I'll go to you first. The 4 of us here, we know a lot about La Vega the last couple of years. We see the size and the speed that these guys come with every year. It's a very impressive team. They've won a state title or 2 in the last 10 years. But they ran up against a team in Melissa, man, that I think Melissa might just win the state title when it's all said and done. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I went with La Vega just because I've seen them play. You know what I mean? They've got a few losses. One of them to Stephenville. They lost to Argyle, they lost to LBJ. So they lost the only losses that they have are to really, really good football programs. But just because I've seen the way they play and when I saw them play Miller, Miller kept it close in the first half, and then La Vega just comes back in the second half and just really ran away with that game against a pretty good Miller football team. And I'm not talking about just how many points they scored in the second half, but they totally shut Miller down in the second half defensively. So, just being able to see that unfold, watch it live on TV, I was like, man, La Vega got something going on. Melissa is a really good team. Melissa really is a good team, and they got a really tough opponent next week because they got to play Stephenville. So, we'll see what happens next week when we preview that. But I was pulling for La Vega to win. Like I said, just because I've seen them. We've played against them in the last 4 years. And they have a program down there that's well known throughout the state of Texas. So that's why I went with Waco La Vega.
Yeah, Tony was the only one who went with La Vega. The rest of us went with Melissa, man. But you can't go wrong when you go with La Vega, considering what these guys do every year in the playoffs. And we here in Rockport know these guys very well. Steve, I'll go to you next. Your thoughts on this game? I thought this would be a closer game, Steve, and it was not. Melissa really blew out La Vega, man.
Yeah, well, Melissa's been, I've heard rumblings of Melissa, you know what I'm saying, on some of these podcasts and stuff like that I've been watching, and Melissa's been on the radar. Melissa didn't sneak up on anybody this year, you know what I'm saying? They had a great strength of schedule, and they beat some tough teams, some big names that's been in the football talks for years and years. So this wasn't a fluke, you know what I'm saying? Melissa did a great job and their strength of schedule, playing tough teams and preparing themselves. They beat Argyle this year. They goose-laid Argyle. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So they came in prepared for this game, and although La Vega, you know what I'm saying, they got a storied franchise out there too. They've done some great things and been a tough team to beat. Melissa was no joke. You know what I'm saying? Themselves, they came into that joker high, with lots of momentum coming in, and some huge wins. They're scoring 73, 60 something, 50 something. They're putting up points over there. So Melissa might have snuck up on La Vega, but there's a lot of people talking about Melissa this year. So watch out for those guys.
We'll see what they do next week.
Mhm.
Johnny, your thoughts?
Yeah, Melissa basically was winning those big games that I had mentioned throughout the whole season. And something La Vega, just because you got those big strengths of schedules, if you don't win those games, it don't mean, it don't matter if you're scheduling whoever you can, and Melissa, like Steve was saying, man, they were scoring some points through the whole season, so I pretty well went with Melissa pretty easy on this one, and as Steve said, they came out firing out this game, they took a 28-7 going into the half, so right then there, they were out. They came out running that game.
Yeah, Melissa looks to me, guys, like they're going to be tough. We'll see what they do next week. Number 8 on the GI64 schedule, we have Pleasanton Eagles going up against Fredericksburg Billies. This was a good game, but Fredericksburg takes the win, 28-20, an 8-point win. And this was, I think Johnny and Steve, correct me. Let me take a look here. Johnny and Steve take Pleasanton. Tony and I take Fredericksburg. This could have gone either way, right? For me, I took Fredericksburg. I just thought they beat Cal Allen. Pleasanton the week before struggled with Beeville. They barely got the win. Beeville almost got that win. So I thought, of course, Cal Allen was a lot stronger than Beeville. So I just thought Fredericksburg, if they just come out of the win, a huge win over the Wildcats, they should be able to beat Pleasanton. But this was a lot closer than I thought. Pleasanton pretty much gave themselves an opportunity to win this game. Steve, I'll go to you, man. Your thoughts on this game? Or you picked Pleasanton, but man, they almost pulled it off.
Yeah, no, they had a great first quarter and a great fourth quarter. You know what I'm saying? In the middle is where they give it up. You know what I'm saying? So, they started off great and ended great. You know what I'm saying? Which is tough. You know what I'm saying? So, their quarterback Ramos had 11 completions on 23 attempts for 162 yards. Their running game was ineffective. You know what I'm saying? That's where they struggled, was running the ball. They had Alvaro 15 carries for 30 yards. So he was their leading rusher. You know what I'm saying? So these guys come in jacked up and they shut the run down, limited what they were doing in the passing game as well, and had a great game plan and fared well. You know what I'm saying? So my guys lose again, and my losing streak continues. Whoever I pick, that's the team that usually loses. You know what I'm saying? So next year, guys, if you want to be on the winning side, reach out to me. You know what I'm saying? Email me, shoot me an email. Hey, don't pick my team to win.
But Johnny, this tells me Fredericksburg has a hell of a defense. I mean, they beat Cal Allen, and you just heard Steve's stats on what they were able to do to the Pleasanton running back, right? So to me, it seems like that's what's really helping Fredericksburg, is they got to have a heck of a defense back there, man. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Actually, it was a pretty close game. I was surprised. I was very surprised. The thing I'm surprised about is, like, I had to double check my own list if I picked Fredericksburg or not, because I had mentioned about, there's no way Pleasanton's going to beat Fredericksburg because of what you just mentioned, the Cal and the Beeville matchup. I'm like, yeah, no way. But then I was all like, I did pick Pleasanton. Why did I pick Pleasanton for? But hey, it was a close game. I mean,
fullback.
Pleasanton, I was talking about no big games this as far as total yards, this round. Fredericksburg only had 280 yards total. Yeah. You get 28 points, you only scored 280. And that ain't a blowout to me.
Yeah, and Tony, like the guys are saying here, I thought Fredericksburg would run over. I mean, we saw Pleasanton really struggle with Beeville, and we saw Beeville. I mean, they were okay, but they weren't like a powerhouse. Fredericksburg comes out and surprises and beats Cal Allen. So we're like, they're gonna blow Pleasanton and get into the fourth round. But Pleasanton came to fight, man. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. When Johnny posted that he had Pleasanton, I was surprised. I was like, what does he know that I don't know? Because yes, they did struggle with Beeville. And we've seen Pleasanton. Pleasanton used to be in our district and they were not a powerhouse. And nor have I ever heard of Pleasanton being a powerhouse. Um, but I mean, they're in the third round, so they got to be there for something, right? But just because they struggled with Beeville and Fredericksburg beats Cal Allen, I'm like you. I figure they were going to run all over them. So I really am surprised that the game was as close as it was. But what I will say, one thing that we haven't talked about yet is from week 1 to week 3, there have been so many upsets throughout the state. So really, on any Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, anybody could win. You know what I mean? Records are out the window, stats are out the window. It's who shows up that day to play. You know what I mean? And Pleasanton showed up to play against a team that just knocked out Cal Allen, probably going in thinking that they were gonna, have a walk in the park, and really got stunned. If you ask me, if I'm Fredericksburg, if I'm the coach, if I'm the players, I'm like, man, we almost got stunned. That's what I'm thinking right now, going into week 4. So, I mean, hats off to Pleasanton for even making it a game like that. And if I'm, like I said, if I'm Fredericksburg, I'm going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out what I could do, because I don't think the game should have been that close. I really don't, because Beeville you said they're good, but they're not that good. Well, Beeville didn't even get hot till the last 4 games of the season, 3 or 4 games of the season, barely made it into the playoffs. So for you know, Pleasanton to have problems with them, barely beating them, and then coming into a game against a team that beat Cal Allen. So I was like really surprised with how close the game was. So we'll see what happens in week 4 for Fredericksburg. But I think that even though they get away with the win, they got some things that they got to go figure out.
Absolutely. And number 9 on the GI 64 schedule, you have the Boerne Greyhounds taking on the number 1 team in the state, LBJ Jaguars. Johnny and Steve take LBJ. Tony and myself, we take LBJ. LBJ gets the big win, guys, over a good Boerne team. 68-24. It wasn't even a game. Johnny, I'll go to you first because I know last week you were talking about the Boerne quarterback. Boerne quarterback, and he could throw. I mean, this guy he's a great quarterback here in high school. But he was no competition. That offensive Boerne was no competition for LBJ. And I said it, LBJ will win the title. I'll be surprised if they don't. Your thoughts on this game? How big of a win? Were you surprised at the score between these two teams?
I like the score the LBJ had, but I didn't like the 389 total yards they gave up to them.
To Boerne.
To Boerne. 389 yards total. That's a lot to give up.
How much of that was passing, Johnny?
I don't know. Y'all see that?
No, I didn't see that.
No, I didn't see it.
But LBJ had 625 yards total themselves.
Wow.
So
wow.
It was pretty well. Offensive power of the game.
And here's the thing, though. But you talked about Boerne. You talked about that quarterback. We know that quarterback could play. It seemed like Boerne's defense had trouble stopping LBJ's offense. A lot of teams this year have. LBJ's undefeated. But you talked about Boerne's quarterback. You said that this guy, I mean, you talked about a week or two ago on the podcast where you said the amount of yards and touchdowns this guy has. So Boerne's quarterback, we knew he could throw. I don't know if he could run, but that offense could score some points, right? So not surprising that they were able to get 300 plus yards. But LBJ's defense, man, I mean, LBJ's offense, this is their strength, I think. So, Coach, I'll go to you next, man. Can anybody stop LBJ?
Man, I tell you what, it's going to be pretty tough because this is a really good team that they just beat with some quality wins on their record. You know what I'm saying? They beat Fredericksburg that we just talked about. You know, they beat GP. They had some big, huge wins over some schools that are just got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? That are still playing Fredericksburg. You know what I'm saying? So this team was really good, but LBJ is just that much better. So Galloway for the Greyhounds, he only had 9 completions for 29 yards. Oh, I'm sorry. 9 completions on 29 attempts 489 yards. Their big standout was Pincheck, 29 carries, 463 yards and 2 touchdowns. But man, I mean, I know you've thrown LBJ's name around quite a bit this year, Gabe, and I mean, they're really good and deservingly so, right? I mean, but I didn't see this big of a blowout coming. You know what I'm saying? I looked at those guys' schedule, Bernie, whatever, and I was like, man, these guys they're gonna put up a fight. You know what I'm saying? I know LBJ is on a big roll, but so are these guys. They had a great season, man. Some big, huge wins. And so I didn't see this coming. I figured it'd be closer and not this big of a blowout though. So
I saw the same thing, Tony, as Steve did, man. I thought LBJ would win, but man, I didn't see him blowing out they beat a good Bernie team.
Mhm.
Man, your thoughts on this game?
I'm gonna go back to what I've been saying. When you get to this point of the playoffs, your defense got to show up, and this is probably one of those games where you look at your team and say, hey guys, the plays, we're gonna work on defense all week. I mean, LBJ's been scoring some serious points. So if I'm the coach over there, I'm thinking, I'm going to say, how do we get in the end zone? I'm going to say, how do we stop them from getting into the end zone? That's going to be my game plan. Not how am I going to score points, but how am I going to stop them from scoring points? Because they're really, really putting up some serious numbers. You know what I'm saying? And that's where the strategy has to be. How do we keep them out of the end zone? Do we blitz the quarterback? Do we double cover their receivers? Do we key in on their running back? And I mean, this is one of those games, like I said, when you're in the 3rd round, 4th round, 5th round, defenses need to show up. And if you look at the teams that they play, they've put up some serious points. So when you get behind, when a team scores at will and you get behind, I mean, it starts taking the wind out of your sails on the other sideline, and it's really hard to get back into a game when the other team is just scoring at will. So I mean, we'll see, but that's going to be for the next what is it, 3 rounds? For the next 3 rounds, it's going to be about what defense can hold the other team from scoring. That's what's going to get by these next 3 weeks into the state championship, is what defenses will show up. If they're not here because they can't score points, everyone is here because they can score. It's whose defense will show up and be the more dominant one on the field when the game's over. So, LBJ, their defense showed up. Their offense showed up in a big way. Bernie's defense didn't show up. They didn't.
And here's a question, man. Can anybody left stop that LBJ offense? We shall find out. And guys, when we stop the recording, before you guys get up, I want to share something with you guys about LBJ here, but off the air. So when we stop the recording, just kind of stay on so I can let you guys know something about LBJ. Yeah, but this team is impressive. I saw him last year against Cal Allen, and then I saw him again the next week against Miller. Man, they got some speed pretty much everywhere, man. I mean, it's really, really hard to stop these guys. They can basically, last year when I saw them, they can basically do whatever the heck they wanted to do. I mean, they didn't win the title last year, but a lot of those guys were coming back and they're number 1, and they're just a couple of weeks away from winning the title. We'll see if they can do that or not. Next game on our list, we'll have number 10. You have the number 9 Wimberley Texans taking on the number 7 Cuero Gobblers. Johnny and Steve take Cuero. Tony and myself also take Cuero. We all took Cuero. I actually, at the beginning, I picked Wimberley, and then I changed my pick. But this game I saw, guys, it was close. Wimberley was able to move the ball on that Cuero defense. I don't know if I said the final score, but I'll give it to you guys. It was Cuero 36, Wimberley 26. It came down really to one play where, Cuero, I thought Wimberley was going to win. Cuero went down, the quarterback threw it deep down the sideline. And it was basically a one-on-one. And of course, that receiver for Cuero, it's hard to get these guys kind of won that one-on-one matchup and scored a touchdown. And that kind of sealed the deal. Wimberley tried to come back. It couldn't get nothing going. So Cuero seals the deal. Tony, I'll go to you first. You've seen Cuero firsthand. You know the amount of speed that they have. Your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, yeah, I'm gonna go back to week 2. From what I saw in Cuero, and like I just talked about in the last game, Cuero's defense is for real. Their defense is for real. One of the things that I saw is those guys at first contact, they're tackling the ball carrier first contact, and yeah, and we talked about the amount of tackles all 4 of the linebackers have. It's just phenomenal. There's not a lot of linebackers in the state of Texas on the same football team that collectively have the amount of tackles that they have. So again, their defense is just lights out. Their defense is lights out. And then offensively, they got weapons. You got the 2 big receivers on the outside. The running back will do damage on the inside. Their quarterback's not great. He's not, you know what I mean? He's not going to go outside and run for a bunch of yards. He probably doesn't have the best arm, but he got big targets. You know what I mean? So they got all they need to win football games, but that defense will keep them in the games. That defense will get them, I think, all the way to state. I think Cuero, with that defense that they have, is good enough to go to state. Especially with Carthage not in the way anymore. Not saying that China Springs is a pushover. I believe that Cuero definitely has the potential with the defense that they have, the amount of weapons that they have on offense, just to put some points up. They don't got to score a lot of points because that defense will keep the other team from scoring. I think they're good enough to go to state. So that's what
Johnny,
I see. That's what I say from Cuero.
Johnny, I'll go to you next, Matt. They do got the one thing Cuero does got. I mean, and every point that Tony made is right on. I mean, they're good offensively and defensively, but the one thing they got, they're never out of a game. I mean, they've got weapons. They've got talent everywhere on that field offensively. I mean, they can run the ball. They've got those receivers. They can score multiple of ways. But Wimberley made this a game. I mean, Wimberley's quarterback and Wimberley's quarterback in this game got hurt. They had to play with their second string, finish out the game. Now he did come back. I think right toward the end of the game, it was like a 3rd and long, and he did come back, but he did get hurt, and they had to play a big chunk of this game with their second string quarterback, which continued to make plays and keep them in the game. So I was really impressed with the way Wimberley played. They gave themselves a chance to win, but in the end, Cuero shows what they can do. I mean, you got to play 4 quarters against this team because they can score on. They're never out of a game. Your thoughts on Cuero's win over Wimberley? I mean, you picked Cuero.
I did, and Wimberley actually made this a better game than they did the first game. You know, their offense didn't score whatsoever in the first game. You know, just a field goal. You know, so Wimberley came out fighting for this game. You know, they've been like improving throughout the whole second half of the season and into the playoffs. You know, so Wimberley came out fighting, but man, Cuero has that defense, man. That they got that stingy rush defense. Wimberley only had 44 yards rushing. You know, that's a stingy defense. You know, they gave up quite a few yards in the air, but Cuero went on the ground themselves. You know, 271 yards on the ground for them. Tony was talking about their defense, man. I saw their highlight that I didn't really watch all the whole highlight. Kind of skipped through it just to see at the very end what the totals were. But I just hit interception in there, and these guys are real good. They did it against us, and I saw it just where that clip stopped. These defensive backs has so much speed that they're taught real well to bait a quarterback. They're real good at baiting them. You know, they're free, but man, when that quarterback lets go, they cover up a lot of ground with their speed, and you know that's how they get their picks. And these are very smart backs. You know, they're not playing pretty much man on man right on the guy. You know, they want the ball thrown. They want the ball thrown because they're going to go get it. You know, so their backs are very good at that. their defensive backs. It's going to be a good game. I think, yes, I think they will get into a game against China Springs, and I got to see what they really have on that end. You know, how did they beat Carthage? I'm going to look deep into that.
So you're saying the same thing Tony's saying right here. You think Cuero will be in the state title game? Is that what you're saying here, Johnny? Or
not saying that yet. I mentioned to him earlier today at work that I got to see what, you know. We'll see what China Spring has. You know, I can't. They have something that shut down Carthage pretty much. You know, but punch them in the face to start off the game pretty much. You know, what's going on there? What's going on their defensive side? You know, I'm not saying they had a strong offense, but I want to see what's going on their defensive side. So, yeah, it's a good way to look into their game.
Yeah, and Steve, if we look at Cuero, I mean, and we got a good look at them just a week or two ago, and they're good offensively and defensively. And like Johnny says, man, I mean, they'll go get the ball. I mean, I think a team you're gonna have to run against Cuero. I mean, because passing, you can get a touchdown like you saw Wimberley, but I don't know if you can beat them on the passing this year. Just really awesome. And Wimberley's a good passing team. So I think to me, anybody who beats Cuero, you're going to have to be able, it's going to be the offensive line that has to dominate their defensive line. I think is the way you beat Cuero. But they're good offensively and defensively. I mean, they're never out of a game. And so even though Wimberley played and was able to pass, Cuero was never in danger of losing this game. As close as it got at times, I was paying attention to it. They were in control the whole time. And when the thing with Cuero, to me, what I see, Steve, is that when they need to turn it up a notch, they have the players to turn it up a notch. You know, that's the thing that's scary to me. We got to go out and score. We'll show you we can go out and score. And once again, like they did us, you see a play where the receiver just goes over the Wimberley defender, just grabs the ball, takes it away from him. And that's what they have. They have the speed and the talent. They have the talent in the skill position. So I would ask you your thoughts on this game. And I'll also ask you, Steve, do you think that Cuero will be in the state title this year?
Well, I'll get to that as I round it out. But those things you said about an opponent's offensive line having to step up and dominate, it's easier said than done against these guys. I think that these guys have all the tools that they need, man. I think, you know, I mean, they did give up almost 300 yards passing, you know what I'm saying? But the rush, you know what I'm saying? Wimberley couldn't get anything going on the rush. The quarterback ran for negative yards. You know what I'm saying? So that's them boys getting after it. You know what I'm saying? That's that defensive line getting after it. That's them linebackers getting after it back there. So really shut down the run against that. And, you know, I mean, yeah, maybe, you know what I'm saying? If you can get past their running backs, you know what I'm saying? With the running, their linebackers with the running game. But man, to me, that's just right now this season, it doesn't seem possible. I mean, I don't know what these guys' final numbers are going to be, but they're probably going to be, as a linebacking core, you know, close to like 600 tackles. You know what I'm saying? Just for them, you know what I'm saying? Just for those guys. We're just talking the linebacker core. So, yeah, good luck with trying to establish a running game against these guys. And you know, they got the length that they need on the outside. You know what I'm saying? Because you know, giving up 300 yards sounds like a ton, but for a Wimberley team who averages way more than that, you know, that's shutting these guys down. Basically, if you can hold their asses to, you know, 250 yards passing or something like that around that area, shoot, that's shutting them out pretty much. So they did an excellent job. And to get to the final question, do I think Cuero's got enough? Yes, no doubt. You know, I seen it up close myself. You know, I ate corn last week, you know, after picking Rockport, you know, to win that game. And I said it on the air. I responded to the message that the coach put out on our thing. You know what I'm saying? Hey, well, who y'all picking this week? And you know, hey, those guys are for real down there. And I'm a fan, bro, of their linebacker core and their defensive coordinator. They got them boys fired up down there, and they're flying all over the field. So, I think Cuero can go all the way this year.
Yeah,
and not just because Carthage. I think it would have been a great matchup, and I'm sure Cuero wished that they were still in it. You know what I'm saying? So and not looking past China Springs, I think that's going to be a great game. But I think this Cuero team is just so well rounded. And I give a little credit to that quarterback. You know what I'm saying? He sets in that pocket. You know what I'm saying? They give him time to throw the ball, and he makes good, accurate throws. I hate a lefty, but I mean, he looks great. You know what I'm saying? Sitting back in that pocket. But that guy's just not just a manager. He could also take off, tuck it, and run. And he's well put together. So he's tough and durable. So, I think they got all the parts, everything that they need to make a good, solid run to state.
And I think I'd have to agree with you, Steve. That they do. They have all the parts to win. It's going to come down to how they execute in the game. But yeah, this team. That's what I see from Cuero is that when they need to turn it up a notch, they can, or they have been able to now. So it's going to be good. And there's a very good chance this team will be in the state championship when it's all said and done. We'll see what they do. They got to play Navarro next week. We'll preview that game on Wednesday, right? But this is the only team that gave them the loss this season. So Navarro would not be an easy task for Cuero. They were able to run the ball, I believe, on them. So we'll see if Navarro can pull it out again. It's always tough to beat the same team twice. So Cuero wanted the matchup with Navarro. They wanted that revenge. So they're going to get it. And it's going to be a good one this upcoming week. So we'll see what happens. The next game on our schedule is number 11. This is the big one, the number 1 Carthage Bulldogs taking on number 5 China Springs. China Springs takes the win 27-17. This was the biggest upset this past week. Johnny, Steve, Tony, and I all took Carthage, of course, because why would you bet against them, right? This is the powerhouse. But China Springs guys did something in this game that a lot of teams have not been able to do. And my guess is that, I'll start with the defense. They got to have a hell of a defense. I mean, to stop Carthage to 17 points for 4 quarters. I mean, their offense might be good, but that defense for China Springs is the thing we need to talk about. And Steve, I'll go back to you first, man. Your thoughts on this? The big dogs get knocked out. I heard comments and people from Carthage, they were talking back and forth. Listen, this doesn't say anything about Carthage. They're still a great team, but we got to give credit to China Springs, man. Coaches and players played a great game. To beat Carthage, these guys had to be on their A game, and they were on their A game for 4 quarters.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, I don't have any numbers for either team going into this game, but I was too trolling all over the message boards, and the one thing I would like to say is that when a team like this loses, and maybe I know it's not the boys and I know it's not the coaching staff, but it has more to do with the fans and how they carry themselves on some of these message boards. And so when after Carthage took this loss, the people just really hammered on them, man, all over. Every message board I watched was just hammering on the team as a whole. They're a great team, man. And this loss doesn't take that away from them. You know what I'm saying? They're a great team. The coach runs a super great program down there. I just wish that maybe the fans, maybe it falls on the Carthage fans too. I'm sure they dish it out quite a bit, because I do see that too. You know what I'm saying? When they're winning. But boy, did they let them have it on the airwaves, bro. They were just pounding poor Carthage about, the loss or whatever. But and we have ties to Carthage, you know what I'm saying? We got a boy that played his final game down there, and unfortunately he ends the season on with the loss. He's a senior, right?
Yeah. Hey, he's got 2 state rings.
Yeah. So you know what I'm saying? I mean, that's definitely something he could be proud of, no doubt. But unfortunately, his season end here, you know what I'm saying, his senior year, they go out after a tough loss to China Springs. And like I said, I have no numbers to support what I'm saying as far as how they got the win and how they were able to shut down Carthage and get the win over them. But I just wanted to speak on that, on a lot of stuff that I saw on the message boards and stuff. Give these guys a break, man. They had a great run, and I'm sure it's not over. They had a great season. You know what I'm saying? And they'll reload. Because those guys don't rebuild. They reload down there in Carthage, and they'll be back and next year.
And Steve and Tony, I'll go to you. Like Steve was saying, they'll have something to play for now. They'll have an incentive now. This loss, something that they haven't felt in a while. They'll have something during the offseason to keep them going, to come back and prove to everybody that we're the big dogs. They got beat this past weekend to a good China Springs. So I always give China Springs the credit, right? You got to go in there and you got to play. You're playing a powerhouse team and you get the win. So all the credit to China Springs. And like Steve said, this doesn't say anything for Carthage. It's still a hell of a program. One of the best programs in the state of Texas until otherwise, right? So they take a loss. It's going to happen from time to time. But now moving forward with China Springs, we'll see what they can do. We talked about Cuero, and maybe these two teams will be the two teams that will be the last team standing in the championship. But as far as this game goes, I don't know if you have any numbers. To me, what impressed me the most, because I don't have numbers, is China Springs defense. We didn't talk a lot about China Springs this year, but Tony, they got to have a hell of a defense to hold that powerhouse to 17 points for 4 quarters. I mean, that's got to be a heck of a defense. Or either that, or they just played the best game of their lives.
Yeah, one of the things I'm looking at an article. I'm not sure where it's out of. It's called the Panola Watchman. I don't know if it's Carthage paper, China Spring paper, but Carthage was coming off of a 41 game win streak. The only team in Texas history to ever have 40+ win streak. So China Springs just took that away from them. Again, I don't know what they did. I know they started off first drive, they scored in 11 plays. I'm looking at that. The coach is putting it all on him. He didn't come ready for a team like China Springs. Talked about the great play by the quarterback. Yeah, I mean, and kind of like we talked about with the Flower Bluff GP game. I'm just going to go back to that just as a reference. When you get to this time in this deep in the playoffs as well, it's hard to play from behind. I mean, I know some teams got to score first, but they took a 14-point lead, and it's just tough. Even if you're Carthage, even if you're the number 1 team in the state, to come back from a 14-point deficit in a tough playoff game against a tough opponent. They couldn't do enough to catch up. You know what I mean? If anything, you could trade scores, but getting down 2 scores, it's just too tough to come back this deep in the playoffs, and most teams will not be able to make comebacks, even like they did coming back to score 17 points. It's not. It's just tough for any team in any division to come back like that. So, hats off to China Springs for really stunning the state. And you know, just tough loss for Carthage and that win streak. You know what I mean? That they had down there, and I know for the boys who played for most of those wins, I know it's tough. You know what I mean? But they had a great run. But like Steve said, they don't. I mean, they just keep reloading over there. You know what I mean? They will. They'll get that streak back up again because Carthage does that. Carthage football is strong in Texas.
Johnny, my guess is that this coach for China Springs, he's been working on trying to beat them for a couple of years now. This just didn't happen this year. We're going to find a way to beat him. He's been looking at this, way to find a weakness on Carthage's, offense or defense for some time now, because no one's been able to beat them. Like Tony said, they're on a 40+ win streak. That's impressive. I know it hurts. They're not accustomed. They don't know what losing feels like, obviously. Your hats goes off. This is still the best team to me, one of the best teams in Texas, whether they lost or not. But for China Springs, man, this is big. This is real big. You came in and, they had to play at their A game, and they did. And you have to. But like Tony says, when you go down, even if you're Carthage, when you go down against a team, a top 5 team, it's going to be hard to come back from, because that team's also very good. And we saw what Carthage did to Gilmer early on. They played early on. We had them as one of our state games. And that number 2 team did nothing. Carthage just ran over them like there was nobody. We didn't talk very much about China Springs. And that's why we go back to the rankings. And we've heard Coach Cyber come on before, didn't really pay a lot of attention. And it kind of shows, because the number 2 team didn't even compete against the number 1, but then you got a number 5 team. that comes in slowly getting better. And when they come, you have to play the game. And on that day, China Springs was the better team. Now, I'll ask you this, Johnny, if they played tonight, if the game was tonight at 7:30, Carthage would probably beat them tonight, right? I mean, Carthage would probably get the win and beat them and continue the streak. But that night, it was China Springs. So your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, that call. Dude, last year I didn't even know who China Springs was. I think we're kind of educated from Tony last year with that, little by little, we started hearing about them. And this year, I kind of was checking up on them up there in Region 3, but still thinking that Carthage was going to win the whole thing. But yeah, dude, like you said, any given day, this thing could happen. And this proves my point. It don't matter what ranking you are, what your record is, obviously, everybody goes in 0-0 into the playoffs. Anything can happen. I mean, this was the second number one team in the state going down, this round, so this was huge. And like Tony was saying, they got popped in the face, 14-0 quick. It's hard to come back like that, and it don't matter who you are. It's still tough. It's very tough. And it's almost like you almost get into panic mode, especially them not used to being down and used to be losing and catching up, so maybe coach went under pressure and didn't go to his regular game plan, maybe he panicked some, maybe that's why they only scored the 17 points. We didn't see that game, so we really don't know. I don't really have no stats on that game myself. But other than that quick run for China Springs getting ahead like that, that was impressive. It was giving them a little pop in the face. They're for real.
And the thing is, too, you better watch out for Carthage next year, Johnny, because they're going to come to vengeance. They've got something to prove next year, man. So they're going to come out. They're going to come out. They want that title back. I mean, I'm pretty sure they're going to come out. They've got the talent. So we're going to definitely keep a close eye on Carthage. But again, a great win for China Springs, man. Anytime you can take a powerhouse like that, like Tony talked about, I mean, that's just impressive, man. Just when he says it, man, 40-something, on the win streak, that's you don't even hear that. That probably won't ever even happen again. When you hear stuff like that. So, I mean, at some point, guys, it's great when you're on that ride, but it's going to end at some point. I mean, it's going to end. It's kind of like Steve said, you start playing in 7th grade, right? But your ride is going to end in 12th grade. It's going to end. It's going to end. It's not going to be forever. So this streak that Carthage was on, it's great. And they probably could have gone another 12 or 13 win, 10 win. But it's going to end at some point. And it rained, and it was China Springs that was a lucky team. They got to put it to them. But it's going to end. You just don't know when. But if you're Carthage, I saw a lot of the Carthage fans trying to explain. There was a lot of them that came on that I read, and they were like, hey, you guys won. You were the better team, no problem. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're Carthage and you're a fan of Carthage, what do you have to be ashamed about? Right? Like, what do you have to be mad about? Like, you lost. But, man, when you look at where you've been and you talk about Tony, talking about the record, the state titles, shoot, man, I would take that any day and twice on Sunday, man. To lose this game, it's no big deal. I think Carthage will come back, guys, next year. And I think we're going to be talking about them being in the state title again. It won't be long before they're right back up there. But that's their home, man. So great win for China Springs. And I think, even though I'm not from Carthage, but I think this is good for Texas high school football. One team that dominates, it's kind of like the NFL, right? You get tired of seeing that same team winning over and over. So when a powerhouse loses, I think it's good for Texas high school football. So it was great that China Springs could go down there and take down the powerhouse. And it makes, guys, for a good story. It makes for a good story and a lot of people talking. So great win for China Springs. And we'll see if this win can mean something and they can get the state title. And we'll see in a couple of weeks. Game number 12 on the GI64 schedule, you had Belleville Brahmas going up against the number 4 team in the state, West Orange Stark. West Orange Stark takes the win 36-17. Johnny takes West Orange Stark. Steve took the Mustangs. Tony took West Orange Stark, and I did as well. So we all took West Orange Stark. We all picked West Orange Stark. So Steve, you took on. You actually followed your fullback, like you said. That's a winning. That's a winning competition. Tony, I'll go to you.
Hey,
First.
but I changed the name. I did
Yes.
not put WOS. I put Mustang. So
Mustangs, yeah,
my
yeah.
pick was different than his.
Absolutely. Tony, I'll go to you first, man. How impressive is West Orange Stark this year, man? I mean, can this team win the state title this year?
I will say, my opinion is this is the toughest team that Cuero and teams like Cuero and China Springs have to worry about. This would be the toughest team. I think let's see, China Springs has West Orange Stark this week, right? Coming up. Is that
Yes.
correct? That's Region
Yeah.
3, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So those two teams got their hands full because West Orange Stark, when they do their preseason, they play against 5A Division 1 ranked teams. They're ready for 4A Division 2 football, and they compete every year. When you talk about teams like Carthage that have winning traditions, West Orange Stark is right up there. They're in the top 10 probably every single year. And they're playing extremely well this year. And West Orange, I'm sorry. China Springs definitely can't be looking state title right now because they got to play that team. And this could be the team that keeps them from going to state. And when you look at the teams that will meet in the semis, Cuero has Navarro, which is a very winnable game for them, but China Springs does not have that luxury playing against West Orange Stark next week. So West Orange Stark is definitely a team that can uh, upset a team, and I wouldn't even call it an upset because they're such a great football club. So we'll see. We'll see what they do next week. But West Orange Stark does not surprise me that they win. It does not surprise me at all that they beat Bellevue.
Steve?
Hey man, I'm just gonna have to defer to Tony on this one. I got zero stats on my thing. I didn't find anything on this game.
Johnny?
This was a close game at the half. It was 19-17 at the half. Belleville scored 0 points to end the game. Not a way to go into a game like this. West Orange Shark, I guess, pretty well. Their defense held on to that second half. They made adjustments, and that's big time. Right there. That team shut down a team shut down another one in the second half. That shows you what kind of discipline the players have with these coaches. What was done, to shut them down. So we'll see how this game goes. That's going to be a tough one right there. A good toss-up right there.
And, it's like Tony was saying earlier, defense is winning championships. I mean, when you get to the third round, obviously the offenses can score some points. That's what got you there, right? But it really comes down from the third and on. It really comes down to defense. And I think that's why people say defense wins championships, because when you get to the fourth round, third, fourth round, and so forth, the offenses can score some points. You can either run good, pass good, or you can do both. But it really comes down to the defenses. You throw the stats, you throw the records, all that didn't mean anything no more. It's who can execute. And it's also, guys, like you guys talk about all the time, it's also about adjustments. It's about making adjustments. What coach can make the right adjustments. And it seems like in this game, like Johnny was saying, one team, it was close. But that's where, in the third and fourth quarter, when it really counts, what team can continue to score? And Belleville couldn't do that, obviously, and this team can. And that's why West Orange Stark has a good chance of being in the state title, because they can score, they make the adjustments, and they can score. So it really comes down to adjustments, and that's what's going to come down to next week too. It's going to be execution and making adjustments in the game. You get a game plan right, and that's good. That game plan, has to change at times, because coaches are playing like chess, right? So which team can make the adjustments and continue to score, or hold the other team is the team that's going to give themselves a better chance to win. So it's going to come down to some really good games that we'll preview on Wednesday. But I got to be with you guys. West Orange Stark, China Springs, Cuero. It's going to be really, really good. And let's not forget tomorrow too. We haven't, kind of talked about that game, but that's a team too that's not ranked, but that's a dangerous team too with a lot of experience in the playoffs. So we'll see what happens when we preview that game. on Wednesday. Now we go up to our next game, and this one's close to home. 13 on the schedule. You had number 8 Sinton Pirates going up against the Navarro Panthers. Guys, I was paying close attention to this game, and this came down to the wire. Navarro 29, Sinton 28. I don't know if you guys were watching it, but it went into overtime, and it basically came down to a 2-point conversion. Coach, I don't know if you got to see it, but I'll give you first shot at this. Your thoughts on this game?
No, I didn't, but I did read that they went for 2. They went for the win and got it. You know what I'm saying? You know, Navarro's one of those teams, man, that had my head, had me scratching my head. You know what I'm saying? They had they had some pretty good wins in there, but their district play, just didn't do it for me, bro. I really didn't see these guys beating Sinton. I really thought Sinton was going to have enough firepower for them to beat them. I mean, they lose to Wimberley 27-0 in a non-district game, and then the rest of their districts kind of trash. You know what I'm saying? Let's be honest. You know what I'm saying? So, and then, I mean, they got the win against Cuero, right? That's a quality win, but that's super early in the season. You know what I'm saying? And then to me, I thought Sinton was going to run all over these guys, but obviously it was they came ready to play, and it was a pretty hard fought football game, and it came down to the wire. And Sinton walks away disappointedly, obviously. You know what I'm saying? Hats off to Coach Troutman on a great season, and those Gabon boys and all that had a great run. It's sad to see those guys go out, because I didn't have them going out this early. You know what I'm saying? I thought that Sinton was poised to make a run to the 4th round and maybe beyond. You know what I'm saying? And it's pretty upsetting for them to suffer this loss. To me, I think they're a better team. Obviously, they Navarro got the win, and they were the better team that night. But it's pretty disappointing to lose to Navarro. And don't get me wrong, I know Navarro's history and how good they've been, but just this season, I didn't think they had the best season. You know what I'm saying? 3-1 in district. You know what I'm saying? And I don't understand what's going on with that. Why they don't play. Or I don't know why they don't have as many teams in their district as other teams do. But it's a very disappointing way to end Sinton's season, and we'll see them. Watch them rebuild. You know what I'm saying, for next year.
Tony, I'll go to you because you also picked Sinton. Johnny and I picked Navarro, but you and Steve picked Sinton. So I'll go to you next.
I know it wasn't based off of this year's stats. Y'all picked Navarro. Johnny's more of a historian, and maybe you too. It couldn't have been off of something you saw this year.
Well, we'll get with Johnny here in a minute, and we'll find out why he picked Navarro. But Tony, you picked Sinton. I mean, and you've seen Sinton. We've stayed up with Sinton. We've had Coach Troutman on here. We know what he brings to the table. We've had the quarterback, Rene Galvan in here on the podcast this year. We had defensive player Modin on as well. John Modin, I think is his name. So we know that Sinton. I knew that this was going to be a very close game, but you picked Sinton. Your thoughts on the game, and were you surprised at the score that Sinton wasn't able to take a touchdown or two lead over Navarro?
Well, I'm not really sure what happened. I am surprised. I thought, like Steve said, Sinton was good enough to win this game. Again, I talk about strength of schedule. One of the things that Sinton had going against them is the schedule in the playoffs was pretty easy. You know what I mean? They played Bandera, which was not very uh, uh, competitive at all, and then LaGrange, another team that wasn't as competitive as the teams that Navarro's had to face. So I think that might have been some of it, but you know, it goes down to defense. They were, Simpson's defense was lights out in the first half, and then they let uh Navarro score 21 points in the second half. You know what I mean? You got to play 4 quarters of football. We've been talking about that all season, and that's not something that Sinton's accustomed to. Sinton's not accustomed to just playing 2 quarters. Sinton's a 4-quarter team, so I'm not really sure what happened. That they allowed them to come back and into this game because they were leading. Was it 14-0, right? Uh,
Yeah,
yeah, they were leading 14-0 going into half,
half.
and then they don't score nothing in the third. Navarro puts up 14, ties it up. I mean, you know, your defense got to show up, and that will be what I say the next 4 weeks is defense got to show up. You know what I mean? And for them to not show up in the second half, not sure if there was injuries or what happened, but Navarro or maybe Navarro made adjustments offensively. I don't know, but I thought Sinton was good enough to win this game, and that's why I picked them. I figured the toughest 2 teams in Region 4 was Sinton, Rockport, or I'll say 3 teams, Sinton, Rockport, or Cuero was going to go to round 5, and those were my picks early on. I thought for sure since Rockport was knocked out that it would be Sinton and Cuero battling for state. So I'm really surprised.
And Johnny, you picked Navarro and I picked Navarro, and we'll get to why you picked Navarro first. But Navarro and Wimberley, you can never count these teams out. They're never out, even if they've got injuries. And Steve makes a good point. They're the only 2 teams that get any competition when they get in the district. They're scheduled. They don't schedule tough teams in the preseason. When they get in the district, they basically just run over everybody until they meet, both of them, because the rest of the teams, as Steve said, I won't use the word Steve used, but they're just not very good, right? They don't help these guys get better. They just run all over, and we see the scores, right? You can go back and look at it. But this was going to be a close game, and I'll tell you why I picked Navarro, but I'm interested to see. Navarro did take the 1-point lead, but why did you take Navarro over Sinton? But what did you see in Navarro that you thought could beat a really good Sinton team?
Well, we all talk about. I've talked about from the beginning of the season how Wimberley and Navarro had that weak district schedule. I always called it probably the weakest, the weakest schedule in the weakest district in the whole state in all classifications. But it's not like Wimberley, Navarro, and Cuero didn't set up any preseason games against each other. They were preparing for this. They were preparing for this third round thing. This is where I got to. Wimberley, Navarro, and Cuero are in that circle, and they all beating each other. To me, they're all equal to me. Wimberley's been playing hot. Cuero's only losses to Navarro. So to me, in that 3 circle, and I didn't think Sinton belonged in that circle. I just didn't see it. I didn't see Sinton being in that circle because they weren't prepared playing against those 3 teams. They all 3 prepared each other for this time of the year, and it's showing right now where they're at, where they stand, or where they stood.
So you don't think Sinton playing Miller in the preseason, playing Rockport in the regular season was?
I don't think
No?
Rockport belonged in that group either. We just saw how they did against Cuero. What did Navarro did to Cuero? Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, will somebody grab this knife out of my back right here?
I'm just saying. They're in that 3 circle, and they're still in that 3 circle.
Come on, they play each other once. They got that.
Yeah.
No.
Hey, we played.
I'm definitely having to disagree. Now,
Gabriel,
Gabriel, tell us something different. You pick Navarro.
Please.
Give us a different reason, because the reason that he gave us, we're going to have to edit it out.
Okay, and another thing about Navarro is they got big running backs. That's something that Rockport don't have. We saw how our backs got grabbed and thrown down one-handed. These guys were falling down and getting 3-4 yards. They're getting tripped on the line, not even on the line of scrimmage. They're getting tripped on behind the line of scrimmage, but still getting hit and still falling forward for those 3-4 yards. Exactly. They kept that ball away from Sinton the entire game pretty much. They didn't let Sinton take over that whole game. And that's how they ended the game was here, dive here, dive here, dive here. And that's how they scored. And the commentators are like, commentators are saying, sitting, oh, here we are going to another overtime. Hey, Navarro was not going for that. You put that ball right there on the line, on the goal line, 2 yards, 3 yards out. They're going to score because guess what they did? Here you go.
You don't get to the second half 14-0 because you don't belong there. Whatever happened to Sinton happened in the second half. They shut Navarro down for the first half. So whatever happened,
Navarro stayed to their game plan on the ground. On the ground.
I don't know.
They didn't panic like somebody else did and start throwing in the air and try to play catch up and giving it back to Cuero.
Yeah. I don't know about that. I don't know if I agree with that.
I'll tell you.
It don't matter if you're 14, 21 points down. You stay with your game plan. Don't panic and start throwing in the air because we all see what that happens.
I'll tell you this, guys. I'll tell you what I thought. I think Navarro, and I'll start off by saying this about Sinton. I know that we had Coach Trotman on the Gridiron, and he talked about getting out of the third round. He talked about last year when he lost in the third round to Wimberley. There were some injuries to some of his key players, so they were really working hard to get out of that third round. And I picked Navarro simply because the win against Cuero, to me, after we played Cuero, and again, I'll say this, I didn't see what I wanted to see from Cuero because Rockport didn't give Cuero their best shot. I wanted Rockport to give Cuero, I wanted Rockport to play their A game like they did against Sinton. I wanted to see that team come out defensively to see what Cuero, I wanted Cuero to earn that. Now, Cuero still got the win, and like Steve said, when we closed it down last week, give them credit. You give them the ball. A lot of those turnovers they caused. But Rockport didn't come with their A game. Their speed impressed me. It's one thing to read an article or see a video. It's another thing to see it live. You saw their defense. You talked about that. So the win that Navarro had over Cuero, I thought, man, if they can beat this team for 4 quarters, that'd be pretty good. So I picked Navarro based off of their win over Cuero because I thought, man, I saw the Rockport and Sinton game, and I saw what Cuero had. So I thought Cuero, and then Navarro beat Cuero. I thought, man, Navarro's got a good chance to beat Sinton. So that's why I picked him. Looking at the game and I was following the game. This was Sinton's game. I don't think Navarro beat Sinton. Sinton beat themselves. First of all, it's 14-0 like you're talking about. They were in control. They in the fourth quarter, they're up by a touchdown with about a little over 3 minutes left in the game. That defense could have shut. They stopped Navarro. Sinton wins the game. I mean, there's just a little over 3 minutes, I think, left in the game. They're up by a touchdown. Navarro comes all the way back and they score with a few minutes, not even, I don't know how much time exactly was left, but not much. And they tie it. Now, I'm thinking that Navarro's coach is going to go for 2, elects to kick the field goal and go into overtime. Navarro, I hope I'm telling you this correct, this is the way I saw it or I was listening to it. They win the toss and they go, we're going to go defense first. So, of course, Sinton comes in, they score. I mean, they go right back in, put themselves, and again in another position to win the game. All they have to do is stop Navarro from scoring a touchdown, and they're advancing to the fourth round. Navarro's able to score on their drive, and they couldn't kick a field goal. They needed a touchdown. And then the coach elects to go for the 2 points and gets it. I mean, this is Sinton's game to win. The defense had multiple times to just stop them one time, and they win. So I don't think Navarro dominated this game at all. I think Sinton was pretty much in control of this game the whole 4 quarters. They just couldn't stop Navarro when it mattered the most. So to me, Sinton, it was their game to lose. And credit Navarro, like Johnny says, they stick to the game plan. And they understand it's 4 quarters. They didn't rattle. They didn't, shake. There's still another half to play. This coach has confidence in what they can do and what his players can do. And he stuck to the game plan. And for most of the part, it worked. But Sinton was in control. And when it mattered most, in that defense had to come up with a stop to win the game in regulation and in overtime. And then the 2 points, they could not do it. So credit Navarro for the win. But this is a heartbreak for Sinton because they should have won this game. It was their game to win the whole game. But that's why you play the game, guys. And I know for Troutman and those players, this is going to sting for a very long time because they were right there and could not, make the stops when they needed it to win the game. Now we move over to Navarro. This is why Navarro beat Cuero. This is exactly why they beat Cuero. This is exactly why Navarro's a dangerous team and they can beat Cuero again because of what they do.
They can.
They beat them once.
They beat Wimberley once in the regular season 2 years in a row and lost in the playoffs. They can't beat a team twice. They've already proven that for 2 years. They won't.
And it was like week 2, right? Week 2 when they got that win over Cuero.
Look, this is one of the things you're not talking about. This Navarro returned a lot of seniors. A lot of guys are seniors on that team. Look at the Cuero roster. They played them in week 2 with a bunch of juniors and sophomores on that team. This Cuero team, those 4 linebackers, that running back, they're all coming back next year. They're juniors and sophomores.
Well, yeah, but
they played
Navarro,
an inexperienced Cuero team. That was probably most of those guys' first year on varsity. Most of them probably. And they got better together as the year went on. And Navarro will not beat that team again. I guarantee that.
Well, you're probably right. I mean, the bet would be that Cuero would win. But again, when you look at this game with Sinton had multiple times to win this game. And when it mattered most, they could not stop Navarro. I think Cuero, obviously I'm going to take Cuero because I think Cuero is the better team. But I wouldn't count Navarro out, guys. I think this coach is a very good coach that they have. And this team,
their backs are very hard to bring down.
It is. Listen,
they're very hard. They're not huge, but they're bigger than the average backs that we've seen all season.
Hey, Tony, check this out. Sinton, we saw Sinton's defense. That defense from Sinton, they're no joke. They can play some football, and they couldn't stop Navarro when it counted. One time, in 3 drives, one time, and you stop them, and we're talking about Sinton going to the next round, and they couldn't do it when it mattered the most. So I don't think if you're Cuero that you can just run all over Navarro. This is a tough team, like Johnny's saying. This is a team that can play. Now, Cuero would have the advantage, I think, because one thing you said that I think is very true is that was a very inexperienced team to what they are now. Cuero's a lot better of a team this round than early on. And they only lost by 2. So, and it is hard to beat a team twice. So I would give the advantage to Cuero. But I don't think Navarro's ever out of a game. They're just not. They stick to the game plan, and they do it very well. They run that slot so good. I mean, they really do. They run it. We've seen them.
Very good.
So I don't know if they'll beat Cuero, but it'll be a game. But guys, I'll just end it with the Sinton. This was Sinton's game to win, and this is going to sting for a long time because they didn't get outplayed. They outplayed Navarro from what I was hearing. They could not make the stops when it counted, and it came back to bite them in the butt when the coach went for it and was able to get it. And this loss is really going to hurt those boys for a long time, the way they lost it. But again, it was a great season for the Pirates. Nothing to be ashamed about. They got a good football team. Troutman's a hell of a coach. And just like you talk about other teams, this team is just going to reload. They've got a lot of talent coming back. They'll lose the Galvan boys, which will be a big loss for Sinton, obviously. But they've got young guys coming. in the couple of years. And then Steve and I have seen what they got coming in youth. That's going to be pretty damn scary in a couple of years. So Simpson, a great season for Coach Troutman and those guys, but the loss is definitely going to sting for a while. We'll go to number 14 on our schedule. At number 2, Brock Eagles, taking on the number 1 team, Jim Ned Indians. This really won the game as Brock takes the big win, 70-25. Tony, I'll go to you first. Number 1 team, another number 1 team in state, sat down. And this wasn't even close. This was 1 and 2. But they're really far apart because Brock in this game really took control from the beginning. And I don't think Jim Ned really ever had a chance to win this game.
Yeah. This is another defending state champ right here, championship team, who stunned a really good Hallettsville team last year in overtime in the state title game. To see them have the season that they had, come in undefeated and lose 70-25, I wouldn't have thought in my wildest dreams something like that would happen. Uh, I didn't look. I wasn't watching this game on the scores on Friday or Thursday or Friday when they played. But man, this when I saw the score on Saturday, I was really blown away by the deficit that Jim Ned lost by. I was wow. I was just wow. So, Brock's not even a team that I even know about. Um, so for them to go in and do that to the defending state champs, I mean, Argyle just lost to LBJ. We talked about how much of a, I mean, but LBJ was ranked number 1 this year. You know what I'm saying? Uh, and how big of a shocker that was for them to put the whipping on them. But man, this one really was a shocker to me. But like I said a little while ago, I mean, upsets have been happening since week 1, and it's just a matter of who shows up. And I'm just gonna go back to the comment that Johnny said about how you know, these teams are not as good as these teams, and they don't belong in this circle. I don't remember his word for word thing his analogy that he was using earlier, but but like you said, Gabriel, it matters who shows up. It matters who shows up that day, and that is what is happening these last 3 weeks. It doesn't matter what your regular season looked like. It doesn't matter if you have 40 wins prior to last week. It matters about who showed up that night, and Jim Ned didn't. To lose 70-25, they did not show up to that game. So hats off to Brock for putting it to him and getting that win. Even if they don't make it to state, they knocked off the defending state champs, and that's got to be worth something. But I imagine a team that could do that to the defending state champs is probably going to win state. So we'll see. Uh, but man, hats off to Brock.
Coach, I've heard Brock before up in Dallas. This is a really good team. My guess is that they're going to be in the state game and they're going to win it. Your thoughts on the way they beat the number 1 team, like Tony said? This is surprising that they can take out. It's 1 and 2, so Brock could easily be number 1, right? 1 and 2, there's not too big of a difference, obviously. But Brock came in they really put a whip in it, and Jim Ned couldn't even really compete in this game. Your thoughts on the game, Coach?
Yeah, well, I knew it was a matchup of 1 and 2, but I did not know much about Jim Ned and their schedule and how they put together all their wins. Their district didn't put up much of a fight, man. You know what I'm saying? Their district didn't put up much of a fight, but they got through 2 rounds of playoffs. They beat, is it Peaster, and then Mules Soul. So you know what I'm saying?
Mules home.
Mule toe. I don't. Hey, so they got to this round. They got to this round. You know what I'm saying, on that strength of schedule, and I don't know much about none of these teams to say that they're all how good they are, but they walked through their district. I mean, they were scoring tons of points and weren't giving up. They're very stingy on defense, but But you think about who they were playing, bro, and that's how it happens, right? So, and you don't pick your district, you just play your games, and they were able to get through 2 rounds and just ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, these guys, Brock, I looked at their stuff, and they looked like they had some pretty tough games and against some pretty tough opponents, but they played lights out. You know what I'm saying? So it's kind of lopsided. When you see a number 1 ranked and take a loss to number 2, but then you dig a little deeper and you're like, okay, mule toe. You know what I'm saying? So it is what it is, man. So if it's an upset, it's an upset on paper. I think if you look at their schedules, you know what I'm saying, it's probably not much of an upset. Those guys were destined to lose this game.
Yeah, Johnny, and like I said, we've heard about Brock before. I've heard him up there a couple of times. This is a team that's no stranger to being up in state games and stuff. So 1 and 2, obviously Brock was the better team on this night, and I would imagine that taking out the number 1 team, I would be surprised, Johnny, if Brock is not in the state title game, really. But what was your thoughts? Were you really surprised at how this number 1 team got blown out? It's one thing to lose to a number 2 team. You expect it to be competitive, right? But this wasn't even a competitive game. I mean, is Brock this much better than Jim Ned?
Well, I went with this as far as like not knowing who Brock was myself. Looking at Jim Ned, I mean, last year we were watching on TV, playing for the state championship, winning the state championship. So I was all like, okay, I don't know who Brock is, but I know who Jim Ned is. Even though there's 1 and 2, I'm like, I see what Jim Ned did. Who was it? Hollisville, right? Am I correct?
Hollisville.
I'm like, yeah, okay, this is easy pick. But to lose 70-25, wow, And then I guess at the half they were down 35-6. So, what a way to get down into the half. Like what But hats off to Brock. I mean, I guess I'm gonna look and see how they're gonna pull this on off the whole way. That's huge over a defending state champion.
Absolutely.
Hey, I'll say this. Each team had running backs that rushed for over 2,000 yards. Jim Ned's running back rushed for 2,500 yards on the season, and Brock's running back rushed for 2,200 yards on the season. So them boys run the ball at both of them schools. I mean, that's a ton of yards. And Jim Ned, I mean, their quarterback's already he's thrown for 1,600. So they throw the ball too. But man, their running back is a workhorse. I don't know if it's the same one from last year from the state game, but man, I sure would think so with that many yards on the ground. Guy's 32 TDs on the ground. It's a lot. So, anyways, just a little tidbit.
We're gonna pay attention to Brock and see. My guess is that the number 2. I'd be surprised if these guys aren't playing in Dallas for the state title. We'll go to the next game, which is 15 on our schedule. We have Industrial Cobras taking on the San Diego Vaqueros. Man, this was not a game at all for the Vaqueros, as Industrial takes a big win, 38-6. And this was a great run for the Vaqueros. And I'll tell you guys, I think let's see, Johnny picked San Diego, Steve San Diego, Tony San Diego. I picked Industrial. So I'll go first since I was the only one to pick Industrial. And you guys know that I've been on the San Diego Vaquero bandwagon since day one. And even when they lost to London, I thought that this team would win. This was a great season for the Vaqueros, even though they take the loss in the 3rd round. I don't think they've ever been to the 3rd round. It's been a while that they had since they had been there. So the program is definitely moving in the right direction. But I just thought Industrial was going to be the tougher team, the more experienced team. And I think they play a tougher district. I could be wrong on that, but if I saw correctly early on in the season, they have some pretty tough games, I think, that they play in district. I don't know about their preseason. Maybe this time around, these teams that they play weren't as tough as they were the year before. But I remember Industrial, I just thought they were going to be the better team. San Diego, when they got to this 3rd round, when you get to the 1st round, it's almost like a regular season game, guys. To me, pretty much, because they finished up on top of their district. And then you get to the second round, it gets a little tougher. But we know when we get to the third round, you're playing some elite teams. You're not playing the same team that you play in district. That third round, and this year the second round was tough, but the third round definitely gets tough. Your defense, like Tony was saying earlier, you have to have a different dynamic. You can't just go in to the game with what got you there, with what you were doing in the regular season. I'm a true believer that you have to stick to your foundation, but you have to add other dynamics to be able to get through the third and fourth round. And I thought that, and it's not an effort, but I just thought Industrial was going to be the better team, and it proved to be that way. San Diego could only get 6 points, and the defense really couldn't hold Industrial. So that's why I picked Industrial. I just didn't think that San Diego was going to be able to match up in the third round with any of these teams, no matter who it was. It just happened to be Industrial. But I'll say for Coach Ochoa down there in San Diego and those players, one hell of a season for those guys, man. It's something to look back and build on. You get to the third round. I don't know if he's got a lot of these guys coming back, but it was great to see the Vaqueros get this far. And the future should definitely look bright for these guys next year and the years to come. So congratulations to Coach Ochoa there in San Diego and to his players. Hell of a season. Nothing to be ashamed about. And I'm sure those guys are not. They'll build on this. I'll go to Johnny. You picked San Diego. What made you think that the Vaqueros, Johnny, had a shot to be Industrial? What did you see? Was it stats? Was it an article? What made you think that San Diego had a chance to win this game?
I was on their bandwagon, dude. I was on their bandwagon. I was gonna stay on there until they got eliminated. But yeah, you're right. This is the first time in their program history that they made it to the third round. So they never made it this far. So congrats to the San Diego doing that. But they couldn't stop. Once Industrial got going, they just couldn't stop them. I mean, Industrial had 604 yards, total yards. 604. They shut up. It was a shutout first quarter, but second quarter it kind of fell apart. With them scoring 21 points to start off the second quarter, just back to back, scores. The only thing San Diego had was just a fumble return for a touchdown. That went for, I think, 70 yards before the half. So that was the only highlight they had for the entire game.
And it's hard, when you get to the third round, you got a bunch of guys that never been there before. It's different than playing a regular season game. I mean, the speed changes, the quarterback, the guys might be a little bigger. I mean, I don't know, but it's definitely different third round than it is in the regular season game. So, Steve, I'll go to you next, man. Your thoughts on this game? I mean, the Vaqueros had a great season, but they ran up against a good Industrial team. Like Johnny said, 600 plus yards. You give up that many yards, you're not going to win the game.
Well, Industrial had a great season, man. They played some quality opponents, and they got some quality wins mixed in there. They lose a district game to Edna by 10 points. And we all know how tough those guys played against Refugio. So like Tony said earlier, I'm saying some of these games, when you play them that tight and you lose by 10 or 12 or 14 points, that's a win. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they did a great job in preparing for the postseason. And they got some quality wins. They beat Mathis in a close game. They beat Tidehaven. Let's see, Orange Grove, Palacio. So they got some real good quality wins under their belt where, the Vaqueros San Diego, they had a great season. You know what I'm saying? They're turning the corner just a little bit. They got their program turned around over there. I wasn't on San Diego's bandwagon this year. I picked against them pretty much the entire year. But they proved me wrong, and they had a great season nonetheless. And like I said, I think they're going to be a, up and coming team, you know what I'm saying, might make a little noise over there. So, keep an eye on those guys, but Industrial just proved to be a little bit too much for those guys and really turned it on, you know what I'm saying? And that's how you play a team like that. You know what I'm saying? You get an inexperienced team, that's deeper in the playoffs than they might've been in years. And you just keep your foot down. Right. And that's what they did. You know what I'm saying? They played 4 full quarters of football, and totally outclass the Vaqueros this week. So we'll see them. We'll see how they do next week.
Absolutely. Tony, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is a game of experience. You know, Industrial has experience in the playoffs. San Diego does not. You know, I saw an interview on one of the news stations with the coach Ochoa, and he talked about the youth of his team. So, you know, like you said, if I'm Coach Ochoa and the San Diego Vaqueros, you know, I'm definitely holding my head up high for accomplishing something that they haven't been able to accomplish before. You know, this coach is taking them to places they haven't been before. And the good thing is, some of these kids get to experience it for a few more years because a lot of them are juniors and sophomores. So, you know, they have more opportunities to get to the to the next round. You know what I mean? It's not over for them yet. You know, but for those seniors who are graduating this year and played their last football game last week, you know, again, you hold your head up high because you got somewhere where the school's never been before, and that's something they'll always remember. So, you know, hats off to the Vaqueros for a really great season. You know, they were the last man standing in their district. Even though they came in second place behind London, they, you know, they're the last man standing. So, you know, they gotta carry their heads high for that, and representing the area very well. You know, so hats off to them and Industrial for, you know, just playing a competitive game, and you know, they're going on to the next round now. So
Absolutely. And number 16 on the GI 64 schedule, you got number 6 Newton Eagles taking on the number 8 Washcombe Wildcats. The Wildcats take the big win 42-6. Newton loses, but Johnny and Steve had Newton, and Tony and I had Newton. So we all picked Newton. They take the big loss, man. Washcombe. I didn't know neither one of these teams too well. So Steve, I'll go to you first. Any thoughts on this game?
None, man. I'm sorry. I followed my fullback on this one too, and I bet you he followed somebody else because I got 0 on this game right here.
I got nothing either. John, do you have anything? I don't either. I have nothing to add.
I don't have nothing either.
Tony, do you have anything? I mean, we've known Newton to play a good and be a good team, but you know, they Washcombe. I don't know anything about these guys, but they're very impressive to get a huge win like this. They're both ranked. Of course, Newton's ranked a little lower, but and this Washcombe team really took care of business. Do you have anything on these guys? Do you know anything about them?
Man, I do not. But you know, I will say again that shoot, Newton beat West Orange Stock 40-26. I'm looking at their, I mean, so that's one of West Orange Stark's losses. Uh, but again, the only thing that I'm surprised about, because I don't know these teams, is just these scores. I mean, third rounds, fourth rounds, fifth rounds. I mean, these games are a lot tighter than what we're seeing. So, for this, how do you pronounce it?
Washcombe.
Wascom, Wascom to come out here and almost blank, you know, highly ranked team in the third round is very impressive. You know, hats off to them for being able to do that in the third round. Like I said, when you see scores like that this late in the playoffs, it's really surprising. So, but other than that, I don't have nothing else on either of these teams.
We'll see what Wascombe does next week. Number 17 on the GS 64 schedule, you have the Tide Haven Tigers going up against the Pope Pirates. Pirates take the win 27-14, pretty close game. Johnny, Steve have Tide Haven. Tony, you and I took Pope, so I'll go to you first since we got the win. Tony, you took the Pirates over Tide Haven. What did you see in the Pirates over Tide Haven that made you pick them? What did you see that they could actually beat Tide Haven like they did?
Yeah, Poth is one of those teams that just in the last few years has really been dominating throughout the regular season. You know, they make runs in the playoffs, but really dominating in the regular season. Man, I'm looking at their games. Uh, besides Fall City, they really didn't have a close game. I mean, at all. None of the games were close besides their win against Fall City. So, I mean, Poth is a team that, like I said last year, I thought they were destined for state. But what I will say is that even though I picked Poth, Tidehaven to come in at 7-4 and really compete with them, because to me, 14-27 is competing. These are the kind of scores that you expect to see in the third round. For Tidehaven to come out here and really play Poth that tight, that's pretty good. But I just thought Poth was the better team.
So did I. I just thought they were going to be better than Tidehaven. No, nothing that I saw, nothing that I read. I just thought, looking at their at the wins that they had briefly, I just thought this is the better team and take them over Tidehaven. Now I'll switch to the other side, Stephen and Johnny. You guys went the other way. You guys picked Tidehaven. So Johnny, I'll go to you first. What did you see? What impressed you about Tidehaven that you thought they had a chance to beat the Pirates?
Well, I think I want to go with. I didn't write this down, but who did Tidehaven play the week before? Tony, maybe.
Odom.
That's what I was going by. That's what I was going by. I thought Odom was a very good team this year, a very powerhouse team, and for them to beat Odom, that's why I went with Tidehaven. That's what it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, Poth beat East Bernard last week.
Yeah, but you know what, Johnny? This was a close game. I mean, they beat a real powerhouse that had been really good. We talked about Odom a lot this year, and so we knew. I mean, if Tidehaven could beat Odom, damn, Tidehaven can play. And even though they lost this game, Johnny, like Tony said, the score tells you it was competitive. I mean, they competed against this team that beat East Bernard. Steve, anything you want to add? I know you kind of follow Johnny, but
this guy.
But Tidehaven though, Steve. I mean, they competed in this game. I mean, it wasn't like the Pirates blew them out.
Yeah, no, but you got to chalk this one up. For me, I got to chalk this one up to not doing my due diligence. You know what I'm saying? Because Poth clearly had the better season. They got wins over playoff teams. Natalia's a playoff team. I don't know if they're still playing, but they're a playoff team, and they beat them pretty handily, 42-13. And so, yeah, man, that chalk that one up. They lose by 29 to Shiner. I mean, that's kind of a pretty big loss there, but I mean, nonetheless, they scored against Shiner, scored 10 points. So, yeah, no, I'm gonna chalk this one up to me not doing my own homework and getting in behind Johnny and hoping that he can make a gap. Obviously, he did.
Not in that one, but he usually does. We'll go to number 18. And this is the number 1 team, the Refugio Bobcats, going up against Ganado. Not much of a game. They take the big win, 54-7. Johnny, I'm going to go to you first. Now, this sets up a showdown. If the next game, and we'll preview the Shiner, we'll see if they won or not. I'm sure they did. But for Refugio, they're going into the area round, to the region. I'm sorry, and of course, Ganado was not going to be a team that was going to compete. So here we go again. We're going into the third round, and Refugio takes the big win. My question to you, I know you're going to talk a little bit about this game, but my question to you, if you can answer it after you kind of talked about the game, does this hurt Refugio by not being able to compete at this third round with teams? I mean, does Coach Herring, rest some of his guys? Do they play? I mean, how much time do they play? There's a lot of things that go in to getting ready for that regional round. But is there something to be said? Is the competition that Refugio plays in the preseason, and of course we know the district, could that possibly, Johnny, affect them when they play a team in the region of like a team that's just like them, like let's just say Shiner? Could that hurt them when they're playing teams like Ganado that doesn't give them any competition?
Well, you can't take anything away from Ganado. They've made it here. Not many teams, have made it here, to the third round. So you can't take anything away from Ganado saying that they're no competition against Refugio. They had to win some games to get here themselves. Something hundreds of thousands of schools that didn't get
Who
to.
lives over there that you know?
But this is just and coach and Refurio, they've been known, they've been talked about, in previous years about you were talking about how long do the starters play and stuff like that. They play all the way to the end. He don't like sitting them out because that's what he says. He don't. They once they get to those big games, they're not used to playing all the way through 4 quarters.
Mhm.
So he plays them the whole game pretty much. So there is really no resting at halftime and stuff like that. So there have been some games that are just out of hand, but this one possibly was one that he probably played all the way through. They did have 452 total yards. Freshman, you got to remember this is a freshman quarterback. With Caleb Brown, he was 11 of 18, 217 yards and 5 touchdown passes. Luke Mezza on the ground had 100 yards rushing. So to me, those stats sounded like they played pretty well good through 3 quarters through it. That don't sound like a good half game. So I wouldn't say Shiner had the hardest game of the area either, so playing Schillerberg, right? Is that who they played?
Yeah.
So I didn't see Schillerberg being a tough team themselves. So I think Ganado and Schillerberg are probably in the same district. Am I right?
Yes, with Shiner.
Shiner, they're all in the same district.
Mhm.
So you can't take away anything from that, So
No, and no disrespect to Donato, right? Because they got there. I was talking more like for Refurio in the 3rd round, like Shiner, it's not a competitive game. Because basically, when you look at Refurio, the only game that they really had competition was with Edna. They blew everybody else out. Now, I'm not sure with Shiner in the preseason. I'm just wondering, would Refurio gain anything by playing teams like Rockport Fulton in the preseason this year? By playing Sinton in the preseason, not going up to the bigger schools, but if Refurio plays Rockport this year, they might beat Rockport, right, or may not, but they're gonna get some competition because Rockport can pass, they can run. The defense was solid this year. They go out and they play Sinton in the preseason. They might be Sinton, they might not be Sinton Rockport, but it'll be a competitive game going up against the Galvans and that offensive line. For Sinton, that was big. The defense was good. And then you play Edna. And what I'm asking you, Johnny, is if they played those 3 teams, and let's say Refurio gets the win, do you think that those teams in the preseason being a little tougher prepares them better for that Shiner game? Because we all know that Shiner and Refurio are going to meet in the region. I mean, it was set that way, right? Playing those teams versus what they play, does that prepare them better? Or is just Refurio that good? They're accustomed to playing this way. They're still better and they'll be prepared for Shiner. Question is, if they play tougher teams, does that help them better against Shiner?
Yes and no. Because you're talking about preseason, and then all of a sudden it goes into regular season, which is way weaker. If you're talking about those teams that you mentioned, so it'd be a good thing for them to start off like that. Then, how are you supposed to play the rest of the district season going into the playoffs? I'd rather have a team start off slow and go get stronger at the end. So they're pretty well shown in the playoffs. Yes, we're expecting that Shiner game. So
yeah, we knew from the very beginning when we had Jordan Kelly on and we had Ward and we had Coach Cameron. So Steve, I'll go to you next and I'll ask you the same questions and you can break the game down, right? Does the strength of schedule that Refurio, they can't help district. District is what it is. They're just so much more advanced as a team than the district team that they have to play. But they can play tougher teams in the preseason. Do you think if they were to play tougher teams this year, like a Rockport Fulton, like a Sinton, and like a Edna, do you think that helps them a little better when they have to play a Shiner, or are they okay just with what they've got this year they'll still be able to play tough and be a good Shiner team.
Well, there's a lot to say about, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? This has been a winning formula for the coach and staff down there in Refugio for many, many years. They've been successful at it. A lot of it, I think, and again, this is just my opinion. It's just about keeping momentum. When your boys play with confidence, that helps them. You don't ever, say, for instance, I have a team, our JV and our varsity. The coaches will never line them up and say, hey, we're going to play a game against each other, because if JV ends up beats them, then knocks down the confidence. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see any problems. Shiner ain't playing nobody. Shiner, the toughest opponent they played was Post, and they blew their tails out. You know what I'm saying? So Shiner's not doing anything different than Refugio's doing. You know what I'm saying? They didn't play any tough teams to prepare for Refugio. It's just something that they know that they have in their back pocket, and they're going to be able to turn it on and play come playoff times. You know what I'm saying? So I don't see anything wrong with how Refugio's setting up their schedule. And would it be nice to see? I think it'd be nice for say Rockport. You know what I'm saying? It'll be beneficial to Rockport, because that's something that we would hang our hat on. You know what I'm saying? Oh, we played a competitive game, or we beat Refugio and they're state champions. But it does zero for Refugio. Absolutely nothing. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think so. I think the way they're going about it and building up those boys' confidence and lining up those lambs, that's the way you do it. That's what Alabama does. You know what I'm saying? They ain't playing nobody. You know what I'm saying? During their non-conference games, a lot of their games that they play, they're all walk-ons. They're getting paid. Hey, can you come play at our school just so we can be on TV? Okay, we'll come play. We'll beat you up. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think there's any benefit in that. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot to say about maintaining the confidence and maintaining that those boys' mental edge. And it does. Winning does that to you. So I don't think so. And I think it's going to be a great matchup between these two teams. It's in Victoria, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Very
so
good.
it's close enough to go, man. I don't know.
I got my ticket already.
You got your ticket already, Johnny? God
Yeah,
damn.
you got to buy it online. You can't have it at the gates. Just like when Rockport played.
I
So,
even got
Tony, I'll go-
I even got the Bluff and Vets gate ticket too.
Woo! That's on
Hey,
Friday.
they're only gonna sell 5,000 of those tickets. They're playing in Flower Bluff, that little bitty stadium.
Don got it this morning from somebody I know
So-
that's a cheerleader mom.
So, Tony, I'll ask you then. When somebody loses, then how much does the strength of schedule really matter if the team loses? I mean, because it doesn't hurt Refugio, it doesn't hurt Shiner. So
Mental.
we talk a lot about strength of schedule, and we talk a lot about how that's important, but it really doesn't seem to matter. So what's your thoughts on it? It doesn't hurt Refugio. They're good. I mean, they play pretty weak teams, beat everybody 6-0, and they're still able to win a title. Sure, Steve just made a good point about Shiner. They don't really play anybody, maybe one team. So we, when a team loses, we tend to say, well, they didn't really play a lot, so they weren't really prepared. But these two teams don't play nobody, and they're very well prepared. So what say you about the strength of schedule?
So I'm gonna disagree with Steve. I'm gonna say that strength of schedule has a lot to do with it. One of the things I'll say about 2A, and I'm not knocking 2A at all by any means, because there are some great 2A teams in the state, but they're few and far between. We're talking about towns with very few people, and they play against other towns with very few people. So they're gonna be able to blow most of the teams they play away if you got those one, or let's just say that their top 10. Their top 10 are probably the best 10 2A teams in the state, the best 10 small towns in the state. I'll say it that way. Uh, and they're probably always that good because their dads, their grandpas, their brothers, everyone played there and they didn't move. Okay. So when you go somewhere else and you play against another team, I think it's you take a good look and see how good you really are. I think it's good to do that. And like Steve said, you'll never line the JV up against the varsity because what are the JVs the varsity? Well, when I played, we did do that. We did play against the varsity, and the varsity loved it. They got to beat up on us. But I tell you what, as a JV player playing against a varsity player, whenever I tackled one of those guys as hard as I could, it made me feel good. You know what I mean? So you're talking about the next generation of guys wanting to be on that level of playing football. You know what I mean? Getting to that next level. I think that it plays a big role. And I was just looking it up because I remember looking it up earlier when we were looking at games. Brock, Brock did the same thing. Brock's playing against Whitesboro next week. Okay. Well, Brock must have known that they might meet up with this team in the playoffs. They played Whitesboro in the regular season. I mean, yeah, in the preseason, and they beat them 42-21. So they're prepared for this game. You know what I mean? So there are teams that do that, and when we look at the 5A and 6A schools, and even the 4A schools, there's 4A schools that are playing state ranked 5A schools because they want to get ready for the tough road ahead. And sometimes it's not in the district. Sometimes it's not. When you look at some of those teams, uh, like who was it that played Argyle? Uh, Shoot, I can't remember. Anyways, we just talked about it earlier that played Argyle, and it was a 4A Division two team that played Argyle in the preseason. But you play teams like that. They do the same thing from 5A to 6A. You play those tough ranked teams because you know that the road ahead. You're not playing for district. Those teams that are that good, they're not playing for district play. They're playing for state titles. They don't care if they win district. They want to win state. And the way to win state is to play somebody tough. And if no one in your district is tough, you play someone tough before you get to district because you got to test your boys. You got to see where you're at because you're not going to get to see that. And when you're in the fourth round of the playoffs, it's too late. It's too late to see what you need to work on. You know what I'm saying? There's just too many few and far between 2A teams that are competitive, and the top 10 in the state are probably the only ones that can compete in 3A, 4A, and 5A, if they can even compete. And against the decent schools, I'm not saying they couldn't beat a mediocre school, but to play against a decent school like Sinton and Rockport and Cuero, the top 10 team in 2A may be able to compete with those schools, but if they can. And the only way to see what you really got is to do that. And they don't do that. And Steve makes a good point. Shiner doesn't do it, so why should they do it? He's right. And they don't have to, but I think it really does it does have more credibility when uh you do play against teams that are quality teams, and the 5 or 6 teams that they play in district are not them. So
Can can
I
I can I
disagree.
can I ask you this, Tony? In just thinking back in your memory and whatever district, what I'm saying, whatever division, can you remember and I'm not talking about teams like Rockports that are, trying to get to state. Can you remember a state champion going on and go play another state champion team in the regular season? Recent memory?
Well, Carthage played Gilmer. I mean, they weren't state champs, but they were defending state champ. I mean, defending number twos, defending runner-ups.
Again, okay. That's what I'm saying. A champion school going out and playing another champion school. They don't do
Mm,
that. You know what I'm saying? They don't do that because of momentum. You know what I'm saying? And how they want to keep their kids' mindset. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
You can't put, what it would do for a Rockport or a Sinton, teams that are like third round, 4 round, usual teams. You don't put them in that type of category where we're
Okay.
free. You know what I'm saying? They're
So I knew you were going to ask something like that when you started talking. So just a good example. I was talking about Argyle earlier. Argyle's 4A Division One. Okay, so to prepare them for playoffs because they weren't preparing for the regular season because they don't play nobody in the regular
okay. But
season.
again, you're not talking about
Okay,
a state champion.
okay.
You're talking about runner. You're talking about,
Argyle was state champions.
okay.
Okay,
So
they
who they
they won
play?
state last year. Their preseason games, they played Pleasant Grove, Salina, Waco La Vega, and Melissa who are all in the top 10 in 4A Division 1 or 4A Division 2. Those are the teams that they decided to play before district. Okay? So and
Again, they're not playing
Argyle,
state champions. They're playing state ranked teams, but they're not out there
but that's
trying
what
to
I'm
fish
saying.
for the big
But that's
fish.
what
You know, they're
but
not
that's what
out there trying to
that's
go
what
for.
Gabriel was asking. If they played somebody like Rockport or Sin, who are not state champion teams, but who are quality opponents. That's what you were asking, right, Gabriel? Does that help them
Yeah,
if they play quality opponents?
my question was to both teams, right? But we're talking about referral. Like, is there an advantage?
To play
Is
quality
it like
teams.
when they come into this Shiner game next week on Thursday in Victoria? Does playing tougher teams or referral, they're closer to us. If they had played a Rockport, Sinton, and Edna, does that better prepare them for the coaches to see what they have to work on? Because if you're beating these teams 60-0, then you're looking good, right? It's like Johnny, they're looking good, right? But then you play a team like Shiner. Shiner's going to be totally different than even an Edna team. So then, does it help Coach Herring see? He knows how good his team is, but maybe I can see, okay, we didn't do good against Rockport's D here. Sinton's offense did something to my defense. Does it help him prepare when he's watching these films for the Shiner game? Or does it not give you an advantage if you stay the way you do? I mean, they win championships. They both, I mean, Referio wins it, so the formula works. I'm just saying, does it help better prepare if they play more competitive teams like a Sinton, like a Rockport, and an Edna? Does it prepare Coach Herring's team and his coaching staff to see what they need to work on by playing these better teams when they're going to meet up against Shiner Thursday? Is there an advantage to that? That's what I was asking.
I believe there is. I don't remember what Johnny said if he answered that question. Steve said there's not. I believe there is. When I was in high school, my junior year, we played against Refugio. They were ranked number 1 in the state, and we almost beat them. That didn't stop them. We lost in overtime. We lost, I believe it was 20-23. We could have won the game by kicking our extra point, and we missed it. I remember that.
What did that do for
we
y'all
had
season?
we went to
Did
the
it?
third round in the playoffs.
Yeah. See, that's
we
what I'm
did.
saying. It's
We
beneficial for
and
that
Refugio
team.
Refugio did end up winning state. They still won state that year.
Yeah.
So it didn't hurt them that they almost lost to us. We were ranked, I don't know, 11 or 15 that year in the state in 3A, and they were ranked number 1 in 2A. So, you know, we had never played Refugio before that I can remember when I was in school, but we did that year, and it was a big deal for us to play a number 1 ranked team, and it was a big deal for them to play against us. They, like I said, they did end up going to win state that year. So, I mean, I don't know if it was beneficial for them to play us, but I mean, at that year, 1999, we were a pretty damn good football team in the area. I think we could have beaten most schools in the area in 3A and maybe even 4A back then. I mean, we had a really, really good team.
That was good conversation, and of course, like Steve said, it definitely benefits the team that's lower. Absolutely, I can see that. But that's great conversation, guys. We'll continue to keep it up. I want to hear your thoughts. That's why I brought it up. It's good conversation. One's for one kind of doesn't think that we can. So I love the conversation. We can't just come out here and just do it again. We got to have good conversation on the podcast. The last game on the schedule, you have Schulenburg Short Horns. I've never heard that mascot at all. Does anybody know what it is? Short Horns. Does anybody know what it is? Okay. Going up against the Shiner Comanches. And of course, Shiner gets the big win, 67-21. Tony, I'll go to you first. It sets up for the game Thursday, Shiner and Refugio in Victoria. It's going to be a great one. These guys have met up the last, this is the 3rd year, right? And we'll preview that more. I'm not going to talk more about that because we're going to preview that game on Wednesday. But your thoughts on this game? Not much of a surprise. We know that Shiner and Refugio, basically people say whoever wins this game is going to win state. Now you still got to go out and play. You never know what can happen, right? But these two, 1 and 2, are the best team in the state. So your thoughts on the Shiner? You know, putting a beating down on Schulenburg again. These teams are good, like Johnny says, in the 3rd round, but they're not on the level of Shiner and Refugio. Your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just go back to the statement I just made a little while ago about 2A. I'm not saying that there's not any good two-way schools in the state, but we're talking about towns that probably less than 3,000 people, and they have few and far between to pick, to put a football team together. And there's just not going to be a whole lot of great two-way football teams, but there's going to be at least 10. There's going to be at least 10 that could compete against anybody. But there's not going to be a whole lot. So Shine and Refugio, they're not going to have a lot of competition in the regular season. It's not going to be until the third and fourth and semis and state that they play those tough games. Because like I said, there might only be 10 or maybe even the top 20. I'll even give them that much in the state that will be competitive against most other teams in other classifications. I just don't think that they either of them have enough competition for the talent, the level of talent that those two schools have. They're one of the few that has been blessed with great athletes year after year after year. So definitely anticipate a great football game. They are 1-1 versus each other in the last 2 years. Referee beats them 2 years ago, and Shiner beats them last year. So, we'll see. It's gonna be a great game.
It's going to be great, Tony, to preview this game on Wednesday. Johnny, you've been kind of quiet down there. What's your thoughts on this? I didn't get to tell you about, you didn't chime in on the discussion that we had, but what's your thoughts on this game between Shiner and no surprise, right? I mean, we knew Shiner was going to blow them out.
No surprise. I mean, the first time it was 46-2, so it was not even gonna there was no doubt whatsoever. No use. No reason to be looking into anything else. But one thing I wanted to look into, but I didn't see no stats on this, is I wonder how Big Boy has been doing this year. What is his name?
Brooks.
There you go.
Douglas Brooks. Doug Brooks.
Douglas Brooks. There you go. I want to know. I haven't been keeping up with Shiner, but this is a good week to look at what he's been doing all season. That's a big boy. Very exciting and very huge playmaker. I mean, he was a big playmaker in that state championship game, man. And so,
yeah. We've got tomorrow and half of Wednesday to look into this guy before we come back on Wednesday and preview the round 4. It's going to be a good one, guys, and I'm definitely thinking about going. That's been my plan since this weekend. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to go to the game. I'm pretty about 90% sure that I'll be at that game. So hopefully, Johnny, I'll see you there. Steve, your thoughts? Kind of thought that Refugio and Shiner were going to meet, and they have. They blow out Schulenburg. Your thoughts? I'm sure you're not surprised by Shiner's big win and meeting up against Refugio in the next round.
Yeah, no doubt. You know what I'm saying? I think everybody has been anticipating this matchup. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking forward to it. And shoot, if anybody needs a shotgun to ride with you, I'll ride with you, God darn it. Thursday, I'm down. Shit, that's
I'm thinking about going.
Let's go.
I'm thinking about it.
Man, that's got to be. I was thinking about it as you guys were saying. Man, that's got to be on everybody's bucket list, man. Go catch one of these games. You know what I'm saying?
They're anticipating 10,000 people at that game. 10,000.
Yeah.
At a two-way game.
Yeah. I bet.
Yeah, and I think they'll get it, Tony. I mean, you've got a lot of people from Rockport, Eagle Side. I mean, everybody. I mean, this is a game that, and you know what, guys? This is the way it should be. It should be like this. It should be. I mean, like Tony said, this is the third and final game, man. You gotta. I mean, Refugio won 2 years ago, and what was a last minute. They needed a miracle. Refugio did, and they got it. Got an onside kick, and that was Shiner's game to win, and they lost it, and Refugio won it. And last year, Refugio kind of. I talked to a guy that has a grandson that plays down there. And he said, last year I went to the game where Refugio just couldn't get out of they just had poor field position pretty much the first half. And they missed a couple of shots. Now, Hesseltine, the quarterback, he was only a sophomore, so he was still learning. He's a junior this year, but now they've got this Brown, a freshman too. So I don't know how Coach Heron has it set up in terms of Does he use both of them? Does he just use Heseltine? Johnny said the stats about Brown and how he played this last game. So, there's not out of the ordinary that we might not see him play. I mean, he's a freshman, but Aaron seems to have a lot of confidence in him. So I think it's going to be a good one. You got the Brooks brothers, not only Douglas, the big guy, but his brother, I think, also plays it. So this is going to be a good one, guys. I'm sorry?
No.
No.
I thought his brother graduated last year.
Nope.
Are you sure?
They're both seniors.
Yeah, they're both there this year.
I just looked at it. They're both seniors. Dalton Brooks, 185 pounds. You know how much Doug Brooks weighs?
Brooks family is a big Brooks family there. It's like the Rodriguez's in the Rockford. I mean, a Gregory or something.
Well, you know what? They're
There's a junior and a senior. One's a defensive
I don't
tackle.
know, I was told that they were brothers, but it might not be. But
no, they are two brothers. I do remember that. I followed them when I was watching the show when they were little kids.
I was told that they were.
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
And one thing they said, Johnny, was that it wasn't, and this is what makes Shiner. I think Roberto's deep has got to be careful. They paid a lot of attention, and this guy that was talking to me went to the game said we stopped the bigger Brooks. It was the other one that gave us problems.
Yeah.
And so. Yeah, it's kind of like you're gonna stop one, the other one's gonna hurt you, and so. But I think, guys, I mean, I've already made my prediction, and I'll let you guys know on Wednesday. But I think Roberto's got the speed, man. I just do. They're very impressive. But again, we always talk about who's going to be the better team on that day, and these boys, you got Jordan, Kelly, a lot of these guys, who have. Won a state title, and the Brooks have won a state title. So they've both been there at one point or another. So this is the game that you want to go see. This is all Friday Night Lights. This is what I don't even think you can sit down in this game for 4 quarters. I mean, this is going to be exciting, whether you are from Refugio or you're from Shiner. This is the kind of game you want to see if you're a football fan in Texas. And it's right here down the street, guys, and we should go. And like I said, I'm pretty much 90% chance that I'll be there. But this kind of concludes our breakdown for round 3. We will be back on Wednesday. The Gridiron 64 will be on. We'll do the preview week 4. Johnny will have the schedule for us, guys, and you'll put it out hopefully sometime. I don't know whenever you put it out, but just put it out on Facebook. So be looking out when Johnny puts it out, and then we'll do our research, and we'll come back Wednesday evening, and then of course we'll do our previews and our predictions. Johnny in this week went 9 wins, 10 losses. Steve went 8 wins, 11 losses. Tony was 10 wins and 9 losses, and I think I was like 13 wins and 7 or 6 losses, something like that. So I know you guys will do better this go around. I know you will.
Thank you.
But hey guys, it was great, man. It was a little bit longer, but I like the conversations. I'm going to be putting up some stuff on our post too, kind of conversations that we have. I've been getting a couple of comments on our YouTube. It's good. People are commenting. I try to respond back, but if you guys are on there on the GT YouTube, on our podcast, if you see something, feel free to chime in and comment. We definitely want to respond back to comments that we get. Hopefully next week, I do have the laptop set up right here next to me. I've been working on it. I'm hoping that by next Monday, it'll be ready to go. We'll try out going live on Zoom. I don't know how that's going to work out. We've never gone live before, but I will set up everything where I can read comments. You guys will also be able to just on your phones or whatever you're using, be able to read the comments. Once we get going, we'll go live through Facebook. I believe is what it'll be on. So we'll set up interviews at certain times. And then, of course, I think I'm looking forward to going live. I think it's going to be able to get people to come on and catch us and we'll be able
Interact.
to comments. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what we're looking for to do. And of course, at the same time as they're interacting, I know it'll be some work, but hopefully we can all chime in and respond to those comments as they come in on air, not wait till we get off. May go a little bit longer, but if you see something and you feel comfortable in responding to them, if they ask questions, we'll respond to them on the live video as we're live. So I've never done it before. I know you guys haven't, but we've been on it almost a year now, and I think we're ready to go, take the next step. So hopefully we're going to try it on Monday. I'll keep you guys posted, and then we'll get it going. And if it works out good on Monday, every time we go live on the Gridiron, on the Pirates Cove, and even if you guys join me on the GT Sports U, we'll be going live every time we come on Zoom. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully we can get that on Monday. But until then, guys, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let's text each other to see who's going to get to the game. I know Johnny's going. I'll let you guys know. I should know by tomorrow if I'll be going to the game. I got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, so I kind of hesitate. But then, I see this game and I said, oh, I can make it. I'll be a little tired at work the next day, but I can make it to go see what I think is going to be a good game between the Ricebirds Bobcats and the Shiner Comanche. So Johnny will be putting up the schedule, I think, tomorrow. So just be looking out for it. And once he does, let's do our research. We'll come back on Wednesday on the Gridiron, and it'll be kind of late, but we'll real quickly just run down those games and get our predictions. So until Wednesday, guys, or tomorrow, Steve, I think you're going to be going. Are you riding with me over to the basketball game? Okay, so Steve's going. Tony, Johnny, there's a big game tomorrow in Aransas Pass. We're going to be there. GT Sports is going to live stream the game and commentate. So if you guys want to go, just shoot me an email. The game's at 6:15. So Steve and I are going to try to get out of here about 5 o'clock and get in there and set up. I know the JV girls are playing at 5. So Steve, about 5 o'clock. So Tony and Johnny, if you guys want to go, just shoot me a text and I'll pick you guys up. Until then, guys, have a great night, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.
Later.
All right.